Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to take a quick second here to make sure that we've got the quality options and we can jump right into Industries of Titan. Looks like we got them. Usually I like letting the cinematic run, so we'll talk about today's session once we watch a movie.
Titan. Everyone comes to Titan with a dream. Our moon is one of limitless wealth. There are ancient riches here for those with the strength to claim them. But some dreams start smaller. A better life. More dignity, more comfort. Today, Titan is a place where you can buy those dreams, where anyone can profit. But it isn't easy. You have to prove yourself here. Those who settle here take that risk. And without their diligent labor, our power grid would fail. Pollution would overwhelm us. And our trade would collapse. It's hard work, but on Titan, hard work isn't enough. The bold, the strong, those are the people Titan rewards. Those are the ones who see their dreams through. Exceptional people. Friends to the Council. That is why we're giving you this opportunity, Founder. We expect great things from you. Make sure you live up to our expectations.
How you doing, Olaf? Good to see you. An excellent chatter, longtime friend of the stream. While I'm playing a favorite game on the stream, I couldn't ask for more. I will just let you know I sent you a Twitch DM. Because oh, actually, maybe you... I noticed I got a couple of Discord messages. Let me just take a quick second here. Oh, you good man. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I apologize for... I know I'd usually... yeah, I'd always assumed that I had you on Discord, but... I was like looking for you because, like, I don't know, like you offered Vermintide like forever. So I was looking for Ariella's Discord and I was like, did I like not join Ari's Discord? And it turns out that no, I just misplaced it. Yeah, so I actually originally was looking for you. I was originally looking for you in Ariella's Discord, and then I was like, oh, that's really funny. I guess I didn't join her Discord. And I'm like, well, that's going to be kind of embarrassing to admit that, but let me at least DM Olaf, and then I'll send Ariella my apologies when I, when I see her. So yeah, no, I'm not that much of an idiot. Just like a medium idiot. So. I lost Ari's Discord. That was the first place I was looking for you. So that, or maybe just it's better for me to say that I'm lazy. But anyways, this is the kind of competence that everybody comes here for Industries of Titan. And so on that note, I do want to go out of the way and say I am playing Industries of Titan, and specifically a key that was given to me from Brace Yourself Games for the purposes of promoting it on Twitch. I guess technically on YouTube as well, but basically a press copy or an influencer copy, however you want to think about it. And obviously I've been doing this for a while, and so it's very hard for me to say that I'm only doing this because I was given a key. But there's really, I don't know like what the statute of limitations on admitting such a thing is, and it feels there's actually two things that I want to say about it now. I know it'll be a little bit of a lead into the episode, but I also have been getting some wonderful feedback that some people are actually really excited to see Titan come back. So a 0% pollution run, that's impossible. It's every time you make something, existence entails pollution. It's wonderful. That's productivity. But yeah, I wanted to actually just take a quick second here and talk about it, because like one of the things for me is that, one, I think it's good to disclose, but it actually gives me a chance to talk about one thing that I really like about Brace Yourself games. Those of you who've been around with the channel know that I've kind of had some flux in terms of kind of concurrent viewership. And certainly the viewership that I have now is quite a bit lower than what I might have had, you know, when I first moved out to Ottawa, maybe even a little bit before that. And in fact, when Brace Yourself originally reached out with the keys, and I mean, I had applied like a million years before, I'd actually kind of had a rather upsetting sort of break with a developer that I sort of felt I had a fairly good long-term relationship with. Now, a couple of people who do this professionally, like, so there are people who do sort of the broadcasting and the YouTube stuff. Well, I guess YouTube is broadcasting, but and they had worked with Paradox. Like they kind of says like, you know, it's not really the same company that it used to be. And then he says like, you know, who are you talking with? And I said the name. I want to be kind of careful on this story that I'm telling here, because I don't want to tell stories on people's behalf. It's not necessarily the most positive thing. And I mentioned the name and sort of like I could see on their face like their reactions, like, yeah, that guy. So but one of the reasons why I actually wanted to talk about this was that for those of you who follow this sort of stuff, 2K had this, I think it was called like Next Makers or something like that. But anyways, it's this application thing that they did. It's like if you want to throw your name in as an influencer. And I will inevitably do these because I would actually, so number one, I would definitely like to get back to maybe something a little bit higher up. And I know in the case of Twitch, like one of the ways to really grow a channel is to kind of have those social connections. So raids and hosts and sort of integrating yourself into the social network is definitely a somewhat proven strategy for growth. I do think that it has some actually negative consequences socially, because I've definitely run into some people who, you know, it's very obvious what the connection is. So, you know, there's the people who I don't hear as much from now that I don't quite have the same concurrence, or that my concurrence are lower than theirs. And that's always disappointing, but you can't control other people, right? And I will confess that sometimes I have not always been the best judge of character on this. It sometimes can be impossibly cynical, and at other times entirely too trusting. And if I were to be given my preferences, I would definitely prefer the trust to the, you know, to the cynicism. But sometimes these are just emotional reactions, which are not always under my control as well. But like the thing is that there's one set of things that I probably need to be doing to work on my outreach. But the second thing that I want to sort of talk about, one of the reasons why I still apply to this sort of stuff, is that I actually do very much enjoy sharing. Like I do like performing for large audiences, whether it's public speaking or broadcasting. And there is one game which I'm sure all of you know that I've done the Steam broadcasts for, and they seem to be very successful. The developer's very happy with those broadcasts. And I very much enjoy doing them. But clearly for me, because I'm not someone who sort of pulls in very large audiences just sort of organically, those opportunities are sort of few and far between for me. So, you know, the best you can do is put yourself in there, right? You never want to make the no for yourself. You always want to hear the no from someone else. And I will actually say that 2K. So obviously the reason why 2K would be interesting to me is they own Firaxis. Firaxis, of course, is, you know, one of the finest gaming companies. You know, they do XCOM, they do Civilization. It's completely right up my alley. You know, clearly the sports titles are not going to be the thing that, you know, that I'm a good ambassador for, but that was fairly clear on the application too. So there is a point to this that rolls back to the disclaimer in terms of brace yourself in that. So, you know, these are sort of things that I would like to do. And again, I know where I am in the pecking order, and it's actually become, it's weird. It does actually seem to be that some developers have become a bit more tight-fisted with keys, which is not necessarily the worst for me, because, you know, I have more stuff that I would like to play and show and share than I have right now. So that's not necessarily bad, although obviously that does sort of reflect sort of some backtracking on my part, which I sometimes reflect on. And again, I never want to take, you know, an audience for granted and things like that. But the reason why I wanted to tie this back to Brace Yourself is that this wasn't a factor. And in fact, they arrived at just the time when I was starting to hear a little bit more often from people with varying degrees of politeness. And again, I want to be clear that the 2K Next Maker, you'll notice like the positive stuff to say, I will name names, and the stuff that's maybe not so positive, I'll maybe keep that to myself. But Brace Yourself actually arrived at just the time that I was actually starting to hear, you know, a lot of no's, and with sort of varying degrees of, you know, of politeness, let's say. And I'm sure that they didn't have this in mind at the time. I'm sure they'll look at any other metrics that anyone else does. But one thing that I really want to give them credit for is that, you know, they gave me the shot, I guess, for lack of a better term. There is a side of me that very much wishes that I could share this game with more people than I do. Because, you know, I do want to be a good steward of the key that I was given. But I am particularly happy that a number of you have actually reached out and said that either you discovered this game through the channel, or that you bought the game because of the channel, or possibly that you're somebody. I know I'm actually finding a few of these now. A few people have actually come in and they're maybe a little bit on the fence about this game that they'd gotten, but they're enjoying the playthroughs and maybe picking up a few things. And that actually, one, makes me feel very good. But number two, I'm glad that that's been happening, because of course, again, you sometimes have those moments of like doubt in terms of, what exactly am I doing here, right? Like I'm not destitute. I am perfectly capable of buying Industries of Titan. And so if the streaming thing is just a means to get keys, then that's a terrible return for me, and possibly a waste of your time. Although of course you've got plenty of options. So I wanted to take a second and talk about that. And again, I think this reflects a certain character for Brace Yourself, because I'm probably going to write this up in a blog, but I have a few thoughts on like the overall influencer space. I'll kind of share something of a draft of it now. It's not going to be like long, but it's just kind of, the free association sometimes helps me. I've got like 2 or 3 articles on the go. And like one of I can't remember if I mentioned this on stream or not, but I actually used to have 4, because one of them was called Epic Should Buy Bandcamp, and then Epic scooped me. So, and like I actually held off on writing that article because I'm like, this will probably make people mad. And I think there's like a decent like case that's being made inside of this, but like I think people are just going to take this as being like kind of provocative. So it's like I'll do it when I can like get around to it. And like if I'd actually sat down and like finished the thing, like it's so easy to say after the fact now, right? Like you kind of just have to take my word for it that I'm genuinely not like trying to kind of do this claim of an insight. And like in the end, it was more the case. I didn't think that they were going to do it. I just kind of wanted to say, here is actually why this would make more sense. And it actually seems like a really good fit. And it turns out that apparently they thought the same thing, because they certainly did buy it. But anyways, I did kind of want to talk about it just because influencer thing, because I've been reflecting a little bit on some of the reactions that I get and some of the applications, and like the simple question of like, well, what exactly am I doing? Like what business do I have doing this, right? Because there's a certain amount of arrogance involved in being a streamer. It's like everybody I think people want to watch me play games. But I think what it comes down to is a lot of the criteria that seem to be applied by definitely larger games, but even some indies or smaller developers, I think, are very much looking for the like very large numbered YouTubers or Twitch channels. Now, I don't know how influential these are anymore, because I've definitely heard some anecdotal information that like at this point people are consuming the content from the creator, but it's not necessarily translating into people buying the game. I'm not 100% sure that that's like fully like that switches off, but I can definitely believe that there are some people who will just watch like a gaming YouTuber, and the experience of doing that is a different thing from buying the game itself. But essentially what's happened here is, through whatever means, these people have sort of developed an audience. This is, I guess it would count as like social capital or something like that. But basically this is an asset that they have. And effectively, for sponsored deals or for partnerships and such, you're essentially renting an audience. And this is something that's available to some developers. You need to market. And if it's a good fit, I think, a creator makes money, which is good. And then hopefully the developer is able to connect with its potential audience. It's the same way that, nobody necessarily likes advertising except for the ads that are actually for something that they want and we're informed by, right? Then there can be, and to some extent, there's the types of creators who are doing more skill-based things. So in this case, it doesn't mean that there isn't sponsorship opportunities or that, but generally what you're doing here is you're watching someone play a game for skill. So what I could see with Industries of Titan is someone who is really good at creating these just, enormous, beautiful cities, because obviously the art style for this game is so good. Like, I could definitely imagine someone making a channel, just building these cathedrals to the exploitation of Titan. And obviously that's stuff that would be very tweetable as well, something very easy to share on social media. And again, that builds an audience. That is probably built a little bit more around a game, the same way that somebody might be a Mortal Kombat streamer or something. But certainly, again, there's an audience that's sort of being built in there. And the thing is because there's a certain amount of work that has already been done on the part of the creator, in order to gain access to that, sometimes you are going to have to pay up. And I think one of the things that is a largely underappreciated and untapped resource, and this is more so for the smaller developer who's sort of asking is like, well, how do I build a community on a small budget? Or how do I make things scrape by? I can definitely say, and I'm not necessarily going to include myself in this category because it's really hard to self-classify for this stuff. But there are a number of people who I think are quite good broadcasters. And I will say this in the same way that Ryan Clark actually had a really interesting video on the idea of like hooks for games. And he gives an interesting analogy for broadcasts. And there's the idea that there are plenty of people who are quite entertaining to watch on Twitch or YouTube or that, but you will see them with relatively small, sometimes no viewers, although generally over time you'll accumulate some viewers if you stick around with it long enough. But in this case, it sort of says like, what's the hook? There's lots of games out there. There's lots of broadcasts out there. What is that thing that, you can think of it as the elevator pitch. You can think of it as the high concept. Basically, what's the reason to watch this? And in addition, like, go out and tell people about it and have those people be like, oh yeah, I gotta see this now, right? So this could be anything from, this person's, a former wrestler and now they're, now they're broadcasting, or this is legitimately the best Dota 2 player in the world, or, any number of things. So the thing is that if there is a collection of talent, people who will show your game quite well, I'm going to propose that, particularly with the Steam broadcasting components, and whether you get an assigned time slot or you're just simply trying to kind of help people along, so that when they're looking at your store page, you maybe keep them there for a couple more seconds and seeing see where they basically have them spend some more time with your game. Because I've gone through my discovery queue, I've spent less than a second on some games, which maybe would be games that I really enjoy, but I just have that many options. And actually, by the way, this is something that Brace Yourself Games already does. They do this very well. I don't know how many of you got to see the release for Steam, the early access release for Steam, but it was really fun to watch the team play the game, and you kind of got everybody, they were playing this one continuous save that they were handing off to each other. But it was really neat to not just, see the personalities on display, but just to see the different approaches to the game. I really enjoyed watching what I could of that. But yeah, obviously there are more developers that can take advantage of these features. And if you are not in a position to be able to sort of rent an audience, like in the case of an established broadcaster that has an audience, it seems to me that there's actually a very big untapped resource of people who are good broadcasters, but are not necessarily ones that can rent an audience, or ones that are not necessarily hooky. And these actually seem to be ones that will not pull away from the attention to your game, but will in fact be people who show the game in the best possible light. And I think there is, again, it's one of these things that's probably more suited for smaller developers because, of course, they're resource constrained, and it may be that taking the time to find broadcasters like that, particularly within their own communities, that's the better option. If you have the money, sometimes renting that audience might be a good choice. Hey, Brace Yourself Games, how you doing? For those of you who do not know, oh, bless your hearts. That is mind-blowing. In one sense, I guess, over a year makes sense because, of course, Industries of Titan has just become so much bigger and better. I'm filibustering the start. I apologize. I've been kind of free associating some blog ideas I've been working with. But I guess it has been. And thank you so much for continuing to support. Because obviously, you gave me the key. I feel like I should be subbing to your channel, but I know that's not an option anymore. I did shout out Brace Yourself Games for a reason here, because for those of you who do not know, Brace Yourself does stream. In fact, I only caught the tail end of it, but they were streaming a locally developed game, local to me, Ottawa. Keep Talking, Nobody Explodes. This is actually a game I have streamed once, because, there's a small audience of people who say, it's like, oh, we like the sound of your voice. So I was only the reader to someone who was, how should I put this diplomatically, very excitable when it came to some of the bomb aspects. So I think the most animated I got on my bomb instructions when they made a mistake, I think I let out a very quiet, oh dear, and then moved on. I don't believe we got blown up, if I recall correctly. But yeah, that is definitely a game that I remember quite fondly. I probably should play it more than I do. But yes, please do check out Brace Yourself, because in addition to giving far more reliable information on the game, you actually get a chance to see a lot of the people, or at the very least hear a lot of the people involved with it. And I wasn't just saying nice things when I said that there were lots of great and interesting personalities on display during the Steam broadcasts, and it was definitely it was definitely a ton of fun to check out, and that's just something that you can regularly see on Twitch now on their channel. So please do follow it and check it out. And the same goes for the Discord and such. But I will close off the thought that I had before. But yeah, so that essentially the essence of the blog is just going to be about that sort of lower end and how that could potentially be an untapped resource. Because like especially too, right? There's going to be people like me who, you know, have gotten used to hearing no's, but do it anyway. And there is definitely a sense of loyalty that will come across, and you know that people can benefit from for being like that one yes, because again, like everybody kind of wants to be the person to discover the next big thing, and if it actually turns out that you know you've got something that was perfect for that one broadcaster, well, all of a sudden, you know, you've got someone who's going to really go that extra mile. And I don't know, I always just kind of think like it's maybe something on the margins, but it's one of these things that I sometimes feel has been underappreciated that some people do. And it gives me a chance to circle it all back. I started off, Brace Yourself, by talking about how when you first gave me, actually I think it was Ryan who gave me the key for Industries of Titan. But when I got the key for Industries of Titan and Phantom Brigade, it was actually just after hearing a bunch of sort of "you're not really big enough to be covering our games" from a developer who I thought I had a fairly good relationship with because I had sort of done their stuff for years on the channel. So I was not feeling like a heaven sent gift to broadcasting. And then I'd remembered, I think I'd filled out a form like ages before, and Titan came in, and it was really cool. And here we are. So in that in mind, like on top of the fact that everybody at Brace Yourself is genuinely cool and really impressive as in, damn, I wish I was that accomplished kind of impressive. I actually have very, very fond thoughts of Titan because it just happened to be a little vote of confidence at the time when that sort of a thing was very much needed. And so in a certain way, it gives me a little extra pep to always be coming back to this game. All right, on that silly, not silly, but on that note, let's go back. So you'll notice I did the Sita Trust. Actually, this save wasn't. Let me just make sure this is the right. I didn't make much progress on this one. I made some mistakes, so we're gonna get rid of that one. I was sneaking in some Titan on my own time, and we're gonna play Nana Technologies. Each wave of new migrants to Titan brings hopes and dreams from every corner of the solar system. An old saying on Titan goes, the bigger the dream, the better the mark. I will actually also say, I know I was talking about how I'd sort of give the ramp up for the stream. I'd actually give that over to the Codex, but I was too busy talking about my own nonsense. So I do want to give the writing team their due, but we will have to delay that into the next broadcast with the deepest love and respect to the writing. Okay, let's see where we're at. So I think I left myself the fun of a raid for the start of this broadcast. Start with a bang. I'm looking right. So I've already got my defender. I'm hoping that this is enough because we are definitely not going to finish this guy in time. Well, maybe we will. What do we have in terms of tier 3s? Do I delay the proper start by trying to do some ship mad science? This is actually one of the things that's so funny is like I feel like I'm okay in terms of my my factory layouts, but my ship layouts are absolute eyesores. So I could use the practice, but maybe now is not the time to practice. Well, it's a small ship, so let's deal with some basics. So the Rogue Daphnis, I think we did 2 medium lasers, medium generator, and a small fuel fabricator. So let's at least lay the groundwork there and see if we can make something maybe not good, but something that avoids too much embarrassment for everyone involved. Oh, I should ask. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask. Can I ask a question about the opening cinematic Brace Yourself games? This may be something that's like better left for an interview or like a something that you may have planned for later. But all right, so I'm slightly curious about the perspective. Okay, yeah. So it's like I'll start it off just by saying that this might be the sort of thing that is reserved for a later conversation. But one thing I'm really curious about, I still really like the opening cinematic for the game. I think it's so great in terms of just setting a tone, and like just all of the details about it are magnificent. And even like the little things, like I love the fact that I can still find like new logos that I hadn't noticed that Sir Karma did like way on earlier. I think like this time I noticed the drugs sign on the rail. So one of the questions that I've been thinking about this one, there's two ways that I can think about the trailer for myself. And one is you've got the woman on the subway looking at the advertisement. And there's one side of me that says that this is the story of someone who sort of dreamed big and had it work. And, kind of the tone I get of it is that she developed a new ship idea, which obviously in the codex, it talks about how that's a major industry and certainly a competitive edge against the rebels. But then the other version of this that I can imagine is that this is actually her thoughts looking at the advertisement. That none of the events depicted have happened, and that instead the trailer is much more about this person's ambitions rather than what's actually happened. And I can see it going both ways because, of course, in the end, it seems like this is addressed to the founder, and it's not the same person who's kind of doing the handshake. I think the player, the person being spoken to, is different than the person being depicted. But yeah, so I guess the biggest question would be if there is a definitive answer on whether or not this is the imagining and ambition of the person looking at an ad for Titan, or whether or not this is actually showing, the success of someone who actually was one of those ones to do well, possibly as part of the recruitment effort for the founder of that. Sorry, that was a super long way of asking that question, but that's ever since I first saw that cinematic. I've been wondering that, and I totally failed to ask it when I actually had I had you all in arm's reach. Well, socially distanced, of course. Let's talk about my plan. Right. So we were also thinking about expanding out to the mineral node. Actually, come to think of it, is there any reason why I wouldn't want to upgrade now? I like both of those interpretations. I think we wanted to keep the opening cinematic open like that. Aha. Yeah, like if you want, there is a massive rabbit hole I can go down in terms of arguments for and against for myself. Yeah, I'd be delighted to hear what the specific interpretation is, because I've genuinely sat down and reasoned it out for myself, and I basically come up with evidence for both sides. So I would be your best policymaker. If you want the policy that says we need to cut taxes to zero, I will give you the evidence that you need. And if you want the policy that says we should have 100% taxes on Titan, they're never going to go away. Well, I will give you the argument for that. But yeah. Please, I'd love to hear what your intentions are. So this is going to be a more long-term project, I think. I'll slowly build components as time goes by, but I'm certainly not going to rely on this for defense. Hey, Night Valiant, how you doing? We've got very important VIPs in the channel, so be on your best behavior. Actually, what have you been playing lately? You were doing XCOM when I saw you last, but is that your main thing that you're doing now? Because I feel like you've been up to... Okay, yeah. I know you usually have like one of those cartoonish games where like all the characters have like big eyes and small mouths and like they go on adventures and sometimes they like fight in giant robots and no idea what to do today? Well, there's this really cool like strategy city builder which just recently got a whole bunch of fire mechanics added to it. Although it's kind of raining now, so you probably won't see. Yeah, actually, come to think of it, Tranquil Trailblazer was probably... I know random numbers determine this, but Tranquil Trailblazer may not have been the best to sort of display the fire updates. But yeah, I vote for Industries of Titan, but I don't think you have it yet. All right, so here's Brace Yourself's answer to my long-winded question. Essentially, Titan is being marketed off-world as this glorious futuristic paradise where everyone can achieve their dreams. It draws all these citizens to Titan with pretty promises, only for them to arrive and realize it is nothing like they were told that it would be. Yeah. I think there's more to that, but I'll expand on what was said. So one of my arguments for it being a realization of like this person arriving on Titan and actually achieving these things is that I would find it hard to imagine that someone's fantasy of life on Titan actually showing the very dirty landscape that is shown after they arrive on the surface. So that was kind of in my it's not a dream or not a fantasy side of the column. Here, this is just me picking up the last of the little fragments that I can. I will eventually start claiming the artifact patch, but the thing is I don't have...
I've been watching you work from afar.
Bahar!
Please, take it personally when I tear it all down, Founder.
I don't think I've heard this line before. That's great! Bring it. Oh, but first, so the intention is that this person is a citizen who was lured to Titan with those ambitions, like you said, only to get stuck in a terrible reality watching other founders achieve what they dreamed of. Oh! Interesting. No, we can turn the medical pod on, I think. I'm not sure where they're going to be coming from, but we're ready either way. So I don't know if the new ship layouts also mean that there's been some remodeling. I feel like there was a suggestion that there might be, but let's see what we're up against. Maybe after the dust clears. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not we can repair that relay. Also, I feel like... So generally I feel like floor tiles tend to be a... bit of a distraction for my people. So we'll see whether or not this can work out. We've obviously got one person still on the guns, but the I mean, one should be enough. Okay, so they've sort of spaced out their guns the way that I have. So the most immediate problem would be how do I stop the lasers from hitting me? It actually looks like we got... So yeah, everybody's running around dealing with this right now. I can try and sort of zap them at the relays. Maybe we'll try that. I have a feeling, though, that that's not quite gonna... Okay, I'm gonna actually have it both ways. So I'm gonna still focus on the guns, but we'll sort of take out the relays while we shoot for it. Okay, let's see how it goes. Sacre bleu, get back in your turrets! I'm gonna turn off the med bay. Oh, that's right. They're gonna go through the the crew pods. Nobody wants to be sleeping next to a fire. Okay, so I think we'll probably just be able to focus them down this way, because we're doing some fairly respectable damage to their individual crew. Although taking out the relays doesn't seem to quite be enough to... I just think the redundancies are a little too strong for us. Lucky. There we go. So I don't...
But don't get too comfortable now, Founder. This was only a taste of what's coming.
So we're going to repair our defender before working on the rest of the ship. So I know I said this before. Thank you very much for answering that, Brisa. The one thing that actually was a little surprising to me was I'd always taken... I might even be able to find it in the codex. Maybe under building? There's definitely something about... Maybe it's in the... it might be in the loading screen codices, but it was generally talking about sort of how shipbuilding is a fairly desirable business. And so I actually took the citizen portrayed in that. I actually largely took it as them being successful. So it's actually really interesting to get that perspective that they're actually watching someone else achieve their dreams instead of being sort of the one that you're emulating. So that's a really neat perspective. That this is why I like it when all of you come and hang out. I get to learn more things about my favorite games. Okay, so this fuel turbine right now is temporary, but we are going to need to build a command center to be able to accommodate it. So right now we're just going to leave things. We're going to leave things be. We are, however, going to start the mining operation, and we're going to start working towards. We're going to start working towards sort of our dedicated mineral factory, and this is, of course, going to be the big super factory design that I normally do. But first thing we need to do is clear out the ruins. I can't remember why I turned off the work from home setup. That's why. because I need to expand my energy plant. But I don't have the fuel for it. Okay, yeah, so now I remember how it was going. So we'll launch this ship. We're ready to do that. I'm going to put the Angry Hornet back in its nest, and we will... we'll finish constructing it, or we'll possibly put the construction on hold in favor of powering sort of our other activities. The long-term goal is going to be to stick a fuel turbine right in this nice little middle area between the sinkhole and the crevice. But that's going to be a little bit more long-term. As far as minerals are concerned, obviously we've got plenty. So we've got 200 CUs worth from our refining, and then we've got 85, which will eventually, so you multiply that by 25. That's kind of the potential that I would have in terms of construction units. So I'm not falling over myself to exploit this mineral node yet, but it is something that I want to keep an eye on. Okay. So... suppose this is as good of a place as an... not quite, because, yeah, I entomb... I guess I could stick one here. I don't need to have to connect it to power, so that might actually be a small benefit. There is one drawback here for putting like life support and other functions all next to the power generator. It makes for kind of a sensitive area to hit. But I think that's going to be true no matter what I do. So we can put down a med bay, but we'll only enable the med bay if the team performs well. Medical supplies are a privilege, not a right. Then again, I also say the same about life support, so... I need to get my relay down. So again, I'm running into the problem of... well, this'll give me the coverage. It's a little nerve-wracking, but I think I can live with it. Now, it doesn't give me a lot of space for batteries, so I may want to add another relay just so that I can sort all that out. Now, I'm trying to remember the exact quote, but there is a much less famous art of war. So, Niccolo Machiavelli, my favorite policy analyst, he also wrote a book, The Art of War, different from the Sun Tzu one. And I can't remember the exact recommendation, but I remember there's one somewhat memorable line when he's talking about like the ideal people for an army, and it's, you want people who despise comfort. So with that in mind, crew pods by the fuel turbine. So this would be one of these times where I'm like, yeah, so obviously we want to put down some kind of a shield, but one, that's not accessible to me right now because I've underinvested in research. And two, I'm cheap, so I'm not gonna pull the trigger on that quite yet. But what I'll do is I'll stick batteries basically everywhere that I can. I think we've pretty much hit the limits of our coverage. I could do one more, but I don't know. I figure we'll give people space for the two. We'll maybe put down a couple of fuel tanks. I don't really need more than two, I don't think. So if we're going to do anything else, it should probably be to either add more engines or add another relay. But I don't know. We'll try this. We'll try this model. And I am going to need to replace some... well, not just replace, but I'm also going to need to generate some more Generate some more employees, so we'll work on that now. Okay. Waste is definitely a problem. So the question is, I still have some things to buy. I think buying a defense turret's a good idea here. I'm trying to remember what MFBT stood for. Was it manufacture fast, break things? Or move fast, break things? I feel like it should at least be manufacture fast, break things. Anyways. This one doesn't require a lot of elaboration. Mind you, everybody's sleeping on the streets right now because I'm awful. Well, we've got our defenses up, so I suppose we can get another battery up and running. And let's, maybe not the best use of my resources right now, but I'm not going to complain about paving the way to our next factory. So one small dilemma I have is, do I want to make the mine sort of flat like this, or do I want it to be vertical? I guess there's not enough space for storage on its own. So yeah, probably I'll just put the mine down like this, and I'll put like a storage building sort of somewhere in this area nearby. And if that takes 4, it's a little more than I was expecting, to be honest, but actually we can be a little more careful with that. This thing's not going to be turned on right away. I'm kind of reserving the space. But I suppose what I can do is lay the groundwork for the proper mineral operation. I hope I get this right. So there was some talk, I don't know if this is an official decision yet, but I think because people were, they had a tendency to want to connect like the output of a refining module to the input. Incidentally, if there's anybody here who's not, I'm kind of taking it for granted that people know how manufacturing works in Titan, but if you want me to explain specifically why I'm making the decisions that I am, I'm happy to go into detail. But I think there was some discussion about how people were wanting to connect like the output to an input so you could kind of have an ongoing production line. And this was like something that they noticed people were doing while playing the game. But first time here, I know nothing. Well, Olaf, lucky you. I'm going to take that as serious and explain all of the details. I should probably go through it anyway, right? Because you never know when somebody's going to be checking this game out for the first time. But yeah, I'm not sure whether or not there's going to be a change, or if there's going to be something like a conveyor belt added right now. But right now, I just try and minimize the distance that someone would go from an output to an input. And then I also make sure that the buckets that things would go in are nearby. And that's largely what informs this particular design. So like the reason why I take the time to point this out is that, like, there's got to be a certain amount of relay coverage that you get. So because they changed the relays quite some time ago to make it so that if basically you're touching, so notice how there's like a solid line when you have your area, and then when I put it beside it, like, that's a great little visual way of demonstrating that it's connected. That wasn't always true. It used to be that you had to overlap them. But basically, that's usually what's informing the decision in terms of things like, well, I've got 2 single spots here, so where do I decide where the storage goes, where do I decide where the relay goes? In this case here, the relay goes a little bit higher because I might want the extra reach kind of up to the top here, whereas in this case, the relay has to go on the bottom because I want the storage container to be close to the input module. And of course, you can decide what goes in each bucket whenever you want. So this is the part that drives some people crazy. If you want, so essentially, if you see what's going on here, when I designed this factory, you can kind of imagine what you see here, and you can flip it over. Actually, Brace Yourself was very kind in getting a photo and putting it on the Twitter account. Every once in a while, I will actually see a like on Twitter, because, like, obviously I don't get a lot of Twitter activity, right? So I get this nice little, so-and-so liked your absolute madness of a factory. So what this thing eventually will look like is, like, basically, if you take what you're looking at right now, I have no idea why I'm gesturing to the monitor because none of you can see me doing this. But if you kind of fold it like a hot dog bun, you have this nice symmetrical factory where you kind of use as much space as you can, and the distances between the things that you need to do are as short as possible. The drawback is that it requires a lot of employees, and you'll notice I don't have a lot of them. In fact, one thing I'll do right now is make a new one. And we are in the workday, so I really messed this up. Let's launch the Angry Hornet, and then we're going to turn off the... So that's a bunch of money I left. Like, basically, it's a half day. That's their compensation for having to sleep on the street in the rain. We will probably fail to pay our employees, though. Oh, nope. We still have enough. But yeah, the thing that drives people kind of, well, some people kind of nuts, and I understand why, is that right now I put 2 waste modules inside here, and then an output module here. So the drawback is that when you fold it over like a hot dog, you wind up with sort of 4 waste modules that will be emptied by the workers, but it's kind of, it's sort of like a little bit of an exploit, like, because as you can see here, like, Ron has got an incredible reach. Well, I mean, they've got a device, right? So it might actually be that they're specifically intended to be able to have an extra reach. But, like, there's sort of an argument to say, it's like, well, they couldn't really reach the waste modules. The thing is that I think the original one I did actually just had an empty slot, and I just let the garbage fall into it. I think there was even one version that I tried where I put the waste receptacle on the in the middle, kind of thinking that the waste might fall over into it, and that doesn't happen. So in this case here, I prefer having things in the middle to not having things in the middle. But this isn't actually a necessary part of the design. There's always going to be garbage falling on the floor. That's just one of the things that happens, and you try and make sure you have enough workers to clean it all up. And that's assuming, of course, that you actually bother to do two lines like that. There's absolutely nothing requiring you to do it. I just happen to like doing it that way. We also don't have power for this. I'm being kind of lazy at getting this thing up and running because it is going to have some power needs. Although I should at least think about it now. Oh, so first of all, we've exploited all... No, we haven't, because we've got isotopes that can get picked up still. Actually, it was watching Maddie, brace yourself, that I did not realize that you could actually put more than one input. So you'll notice that so there's a few things that are kind of messed up about this this overall setup. Why did I turn this off? Well, maybe probably to generate fuel. So it's actually one of the reasons why I've sort of gone away from my really big factory, because this is largely a temporary factory, and one of the things that I'm going to be able to do here is take away the mineral input modules once the other factory gets up and running, and we can have something a little more dedicated to that particular task. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with this area once all is sort of said and done, but I have options. Okay, so again, this mine is more just for show. I guess I can put the second... No, I can't, because I don't have enough minerals. Okay, so it looks like there is a blockage as far as Tier 2 minerals is concerned. One thing I can do is turn off the isotope input module. We're not going to be processing any for the next little while. Set this up for a Tier 3. I actually think we're probably ready to move everybody into the new factory. Oh yeah, it's Move Fast, Break Titan. That's what this stood for. I never did explain how the conversion worked, though. Oh, not enough artifacts. Well, we can fix that. I do want to claim these obsidian ruins, but that's going to require a little bit more than I have. This is 12 mineral 2, so I'm actually going to salvage this before I get more artifacts. Artifacts are not that difficult to get, though, because we've got this patch. We've also got a few 10s sort of sitting around, so we'll be able to work on it. Now, I did sort of threaten that I was going to talk about how manufacturing works. So basically, the way that this game does buildings, it used to be that there was like one construction value for like all of the buildings. And so for me, I always tended to find I had a preference for building the big buildings as soon as possible, whereas now there's definitely much more of a progression. Like, you start building small buildings, you kind of have factories which are designed for just about everything. And what you do is you build your capacity to be able to refine your resources and build larger things. So essentially what you will pick up from most locations, but not all, will be Tier 1 versions of resources. So this has got 25 minerals, and in order to claim it, I would need to generate 16 waste. Alternatively, I can take the ruins down, and it will, I'll get artifacts for it instead. And artifacts are actually worth more for me right now. So, now, if you want, you can just use that one mineral to construct something, and you'll be able to build it. There's no problem approaching that. But what you can do is, like, you can take a look at something like a road, and this will take up 20 construction units. So, like, to build my existing road network, we're looking at 24, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I think that's like 300 units, if I'm not mistaken. That's a lot. Like, I've built up 300 or like taken up 300 minerals, but that would be 300 minerals to pave this existing road. Like, clearly that is just too much effort. And so what these manufacturing facilities will do, this one, the level 1 processor, will go from a Tier 1 to a Tier 2. So you have your little Tetris puzzle of how you want to put the components. You need one to put the mineral in, you need an employee to work on the processor, and then you can use your output. You're not limited in terms of what you can put in. Basically, as long as you have room for it, you can fit it on there. But generally, you're going to want an input, a worker, and an output if you want to actually make something. And here I put a waste module just so that it can store some of the waste, but I am going to need a more long-term solution as far as waste is concerned. And then basically you can do the same thing with level 2. Now, level 2 is 4 units longer. Part of the fun of this game is trying to figure out where you're going to put everything and like try and have it make sense in terms of where you're going. I build this factory with the idea of, like, the ideal for me would be you take a tier 1 mineral, you put it through the system, and it's the shortest amount of time for going in and coming out. So this is kind of assuming I have a lot more employees than I actually do. And by eyeballing it, I'd say that to go from 2 to 3, it's about half the speed of the tier 1. You don't necessarily want to be doing tier 2 faster than tier 1 because, of course, then you're just this thing sitting idle, not making it. But generally, if you can make the rate the same between the two, you're in good shape. I also think we do have a smokestack that's running, but I feel like we're not doing a very good job of transporting waste, so I'm going to buy another truck. I can only afford the one, though. I've been too good at paying my employees, and it frustrates me. Not really, but... why do I have an idle employee? Usually it's because I've assigned them to something. Interesting. So, like, I see isotopes that can get picked up, so that would tell me that... Okay, no, they found something to do. But yeah, anyways, that's the rough logic behind this sort of thing. How am I for tier 2? Yeah, I think I can build the other side. I don't actually want to turn this thing on, but I do at least want to get everything in position. So, I kind of was misleading when I say this is kind of like folding... Like, I gave the hot dog analogy. That's not 100% accurate because I don't need an energy bridge on this side. You only need one energy bridge to connect everything together. So what I do here is I add the waste receptacle. So I'm actually... I did that just so that I knew my placement would be correct. I'm actually going to turn every single one of these things off. It's mostly... I just wanted to do this so that I could get everything prepared. And one of the reasons why I took that plot down was so that I could build an energy pylon. So we got kind of lucky in terms of these... sort of these activated ruins. So we've got a couple of relays. We haven't actually needed to build a pylon yet. So I need to think about what I'm trying to accomplish here. So the coverage that I need should cover the activated battery. It should cover the factory. It should cover the mine that's going to be here. And it should also cover the command center, which I'm going to want to build. In fact, let's just take a second here. Well, it's not going to let me... This is as far as I could build it out. Now, I obviously can't put something down here. Ooh, this is going to be a bit of a tight fit. So if I build it here, I would need to upgrade... I need to upgrade twice. This is about as good as I can get. It does make things a little awkward for managing the... So I am going to want to put down a storage facility. It's going to make it a little awkward for managing that, but not impossible. So I'm claiming the artifacts on that as well. This is going to be where the storage facility lives. But once this pylon gets built, I'm going to be able to dismantle the... I'm going to be able to dismantle the mineral component of this... Actually, you know what? I can do that already. We're eventually going to build a variation on this for isotopes, but right now I want people to slowly start moving the resources to the intended location. Okay. So like I said, I was going to put the energy pylon down here. So we're going to need to upgrade this at least once, but that's fine. That's not as big of a burden. And it may be that I just have to like start upgrading the smokestack. What I probably do, because I have well, actually, come to think of it, so I could just tear up this road here, and I can add the second layer to this smokestack. I think that makes some sense. So I'll just double up the smokestack on this side rather than move it, because it's right beside the activated filter, so it's not, this is not the worst place for it to be. It's maybe a little bit closer to the residential areas than I normally like. But I have some ways around that, I think. Okay, at this point I'm going to just snap up whatever ruins I can. Now, one thing that I want to be thinking about, so we've got our new factory up. So does anybody... I'm willing to name buildings after people. I'm also willing to entertain chat suggestions for building names. So does anybody have a name that they would like to give our mineral building? That's certainly not a requirement. I think I'm capable of naming it myself, but I figured I can do that audience interaction thing that people seem to like. I don't know if we'll get to see it on this energy pylon or if it's a construction or an upgrade thing. We'll probably see it on the smokestack, but we're a few weeks away from April the 1st. And I have a feeling I know what April 1st on Titan looks like when it comes to construction. I'm going to have to deal with my battery problems soon. Right, sorry. I was trying to convert. Okay, so this is because we turned this factory on. I don't want to turn the factory off. This is the important thing, right? They're doing work that I both need and want them to do. But I do need to think about how I'm dealing with this -19 deficit, because we still have a way to go before we're... Oh, first of all, we're going to turn off the mine. That's the easy one. So we're still 11 down. This is because we've got 2 sets of... Okay, here we go. Sorry. We'll deal with power. We kind of have... Actually, here. I'll start by turning off work from home just because I can. But I was going to talk about... You know, I don't want to tell the devs their business, but actually I am going to take a look at the lore entry. I'm trying not to like get rid of the exclamation marks. Okay. There's a reference in the game in terms of the construction technology that like lets you do all this building. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to connect the smokestack so I can get a little more efficient pollution reduction. And once they start working on it, we're gonna see a little something about the way all of this is constructed. By the way, Olaf's Mead Hall is the perfect name for a building. Well, there is going to be recreation, so I'm not going to actually name something in this playthrough for that, Olaf, but there are recreational buildings coming, and you better believe there's now going to be an Olaf's Mead Hall. That is going to be the first name. You hold me to this. The second that there is some kind of a saloon on Titan, if I don't name it Olaf's Mead Hall, like, you're well within your rights to disown me. Gotta find another place to store garbage. Oh, here we go. Okay, so. See all this come up, right? Right? And it's this little yellow bar that I'm thinking of. So, by the way, if you like the visual style, Sir Karma on Twitter. Okay. 11 seconds. You're busy doing your whole factory thing. Then it's done. It rolls up. And shunk. So, I propose that maybe you're the type of employer who's like me and you don't treat your your workers very well. Maybe you don't pay them and you buy trucks instead. And if you're that, speaking of being a bad employer, let's turn things back on. So I propose for April 1st that there's like a small probability each time when that middle yellow part comes down, it actually cuts your building in half. And that's... Oops, sorry. I just got a notification. I want to... Okay, cool. All right, that one wasn't intentional. But we're good. Also, I should probably get some more bodies on the... What's happening here? Oh, it's probably because Steam's updating. Steam, I know I'm playing the epic version, but you need to be a little bit less of a jerk right now. Okay, so obviously I'm doing a bit of a juggling act as far as my energy is concerned. Now, the good news is I've got about 15k. The bad news is I don't have a good solution for how I'm going to get around, like, working with all of this. And in fact, in order to get the power that I need, I'm going to need to spend up quite a bit. So we're going to start with a command center. So somebody was asking last time we were streaming this, can you go outside your yellow box? And the answer is sort of like yes and no. So clearly I've got two ships here, the Rogue Daphnis and the Angry Hornet. They're clearly outside of my yellow area. And this yellow area has expanded from the where we started playing. So that's certainly not a restriction. So, but you can't actually construct, at this moment at least, you can't construct outside of the boundaries, the command, the territory, the command radius, whatever you want to call it. But one of the ways that you can expand it even further, we've got our level 3 headquarters. You can build command centers, so it expands the vision and command area, allowing you to claim land further afield. So this costs 8 energy. We're currently at minus 19, so that's going to take us to minus 27. It's going to increase the sensor range by 6 and the command range by 4. So generally with these things, you want to build them at the edges of your territory. I am going to do one small thing here, and that's to connect the mine. I actually want to turn this thing off, so that's more just kind of in reserve. But in this case here, I'm going to build the command center. And the reason I want to build the command center is that to get power, I need to generate energy using an energy plant. Now, this is currently generating 48. I can take what I plan to do with this is to build another and connect it. But for that, I'm going to need fuel. And you'll notice that I'm only generating 2 fuel. I'm not really going to be in that great of a situation. Also, I believe that I'm seeing these big jumps down in terms of fuel stored because I'm letting all my trucks run. So, in order to get the fuel for your power plant, you basically snatch it out of the atmosphere from Zethane. There was a codex entry in it, which we will read at some point. But it's also explained in the tutorial. So this game has quite a good tutorial, and more importantly, you're able to hear some lovely voice acting by talking to all of your different advisors. And Ayana Oak is the power systems engineer. I believe, actually, I don't know if it's the next update, but there was a reference to, all right, on April 1st, shunk, there you go. Cut your mind in half. I believe one of the upcoming updates is actually going to be going into sort of the backgrounds on a lot of these characters, which I'm looking forward to personally. But basically, our goal right now is to move beyond just the one fuel turbine. And because I want a high amount of Zethane, putting it between the sinkhole and the crevice, which will be generating it. As it says, nobody is sure of the purpose of these ancient Zethane-emitting crevices, nor has anyone who's gone down has ever returned. And the sinkhole, these mysterious anomalies pose no threat to the buildings around them, but their true nature is obscured by the huge amount of Zethane they exude. So if I can get a turbine and double it up in these ruins here, this is going to be a great source of fuel, and I can keep sort of upgrading it and getting more fuel and building some generators off of that. So basically, before I run out of stored power, I'm going to want to make sure that I have a proper set of fuel turbines that will be able to take advantage of the surrounding Zethane. And in order to do that, that's why I'm building this command center. As you can see, like, we worked this out last broadcast. Like, this is the perfect place for it. Now, I want to do some more conversions. I still have space for one more employee. I have a few options available, so I can wait until I get the 60 influence to be able to claim the artifact patch. Alternatively, I can sort of buzz down the remaining ruins that I have in my immediate area. So 10 influence will get me 1 artifact here. 20 influence will get me 2 artifacts, so I can spend 30 for 3. Or I can save up. I'll have a slow access to a total of 16 for 60. I actually do have slightly more pressing concerns, and I'd rather have my labor working on things like construction. So in this case, I'm just going to clear out the remaining ruins. The obsidian ruins, I'm going to wait a while. Obviously, I want the 80. Sorry, I want to use the 60 influence on the artifact patch before I'd use the 80. But we'll be clearing that out sooner rather than later. Maybe one thing I'll do in the interim is build another power plant. Now this is more just in prep rather than... Actually, no, I should wait on the fuel turbine first, because I'm going to want to put those down reasonably quickly. Obviously, we're paying up quite a bit for our employees now, so there's a couple of ways I'm going to deal with that. I'll probably start by upgrading my work from home setup. So right now we've kind of crammed this full of as many workers as we can. What I'll probably wind up doing, in fact, I'm going to be a jerk and turn it off again. Ah yes, the heavy fog. This is, I don't know if it was in this update or the one before, but our visions of getting obscured. And it just looks cool. So actually, I realize I should be saving money, but I'm actually going to buy another truck. Okay, so the command center's up. Right now we're generating a surplus, but that's not going to last very long. So we're going to start, actually, even before surveying, I'm going to survey the ones that I want to use first, then we'll look at the others. One thing you can do in this game if you pay for it is you can get access to the council. The council will trade you for things. So there's I know I always keep highlighting this, but so you can request things from the council. Right now you can request tier 1 minerals, isotopes, and credits. I believe there will be the option of getting council assistance in terms of military aid as well. But notice that you can donate things to the council. The terms are definitely not favorable to you, so you can spend 10 influence to get 5 minerals, whereas you can spend 10 minerals to gain 5. So obviously the council's the one who's really profiting from the activities on Titan. But the one thing that I've always liked in terms of implications as to exactly why these enterprises are allowed on Titan. And again, like, this is something that I'm inferring from the game as opposed to it being explicitly written out. But basically, I've always imagined that these enterprises are founded specifically for the intention of getting the red artifacts. Because notice that you are able to give it to the council, and they're going to give you quite a bit more. The council's basically already rich, right? So, you know, if you have all the rights to Titan and its resources, maybe you're not that concerned about being able to get minerals. Maybe you're not that concerned about being able to get isotopes. But the real value of Titan, artifacts, are hard to find, and they're very risky to obtain. So if instead you can set up a system in which other people are assuming the risk, other people are making the businesses that are trying to claim these precious artifacts, and basically, like, they're assuming the risk, and you're kind of angling the you're slanting the playing field so that, you know, you're winding up with the artifacts. Like, people are sort of short-sighted enough that they're wanting more comfort or greater dignity, or, you know, all the things advertised in the beginning of the game. You know, obviously the person you're doing business with has no appreciation for the value that they're putting in your hands. So again, you know, this is the nice thing about games. I do not need like an official, oh, crumbs. I did this wrong. I wanted to donate rather than claim. We still have enough, but I did something boneheaded. You know, obviously you don't necessarily need like the official grand statement. Yes, this is the anointed interpretation of why, you know, why business is the way it is on Titan. But it's the way I like thinking about it, where, you know, the council is playing a much more subtle and interesting game. That, you know, you as the founder are already in a fairly privileged position in society, but the council has essentially structured commerce on Titan in such a way that they're getting the thing that they value the most, and it happens to be the scarce resource that is not really well understood by these. So presumably, you potentially become a member of the council if you're able to see through the ruse and get yourself a better negotiating position, or they just strip you of your property and boot you out for being a troublemaker. Potato, really. Oh, we definitely need more Zethane generated here. So actually, this is maybe one thing that I'll highlight too. Like, this is one of the things that's really fun about Industries of Titan. So, you know, The Sims is a lot of fun to play. Surviving Mars is a lot of fun to play. SimCity is a lot of fun to play. Obviously, The Sims is a bit different from these sorts of things. But, like, Surviving Mars is kind of neat because it's a very optimistic, both in terms of its tone, but also, like, the theme of the game, right? Like, it's the idea of a human colony on Mars is quite exciting. It's something that, you know, allows you to have pleasant thoughts, even despite the, you know, the difficulty that the game will be throwing at you. but like story-wise, there's events that happen inside of the game. You can have different crises that happen, but it's a little bit like SimCity, which is the story that you sort of tell is something. It's sort of in your own head. It's something that you bring yourself, and it's largely the stories that you'll tell about playing these games are probably going to be ones about things that happen to you while playing. What's neat about Industries of Titan is, first of all, it's got a really beautiful visual style. Like, it's a very unique looking game, and it has all of the really desirable things that, at least for me, are in sort of a city builder and a sim. It's got this strategy element that I like. But I've been noticing how much I've enjoyed the presence of like a story and, you know, things like the codex entries and the thoughts in terms of what's going on Titan. Because again, like, what am I still going to be doing inside the game? Well, I'm going to be using red artifacts to make, you know, employees, and I'm going to be building ships, and I'm going to, you know, be trading with the council and such. I'm going to be doing all the things that you would expect inside of a simulation strategy game. But what's enjoyable about it is that in the background, I am thinking about these things. And like, it's the type of game where I'm able to ask when, you know, Brace Yourself comes in and say, hey, I've got a take on this opening cinematic. I'm curious what you think about it. Or, you know, I'll have this fairly strong opinion in terms of why the council acts the way that it does. Like, why you have the system. Because, I mean, again, right? These kinds of sims are about, you know, economic system, well, social systems, economic systems. You know, you are creating a set of circumstances for the people in the city. And of course, it's fair to say that because, as the game reminds you, you know, everything that you've been given can be taken away. There can definitely be some thoughts in terms of why you specifically are there and what's going on. And it's just a nice little thing where, you know, it's not just simply that you have this really cool voxel art to look at. But in the end, it's sort of informing some other things that are going on in the world, right? Like, you know, it's hard to imagine. So first of all, I mean, the title Industries of Titan is great. And clearly there's only one, you know, there's one object in the solar system called Titan, so I suppose you're sort of stuck there. But I was just going to think, like, you can't imagine Industries of Titan being set in a fantasy setting. Well, I mean, I guess maybe, you know, Atlas is a Titan, so you can found your business on Earth. It's actually an ancient Greek strategy city builder. I don't know. I feel like there's a chance for a Brace Yourself Supergiant collaboration, because, you know, Supergiant invented Greek mythology with Hades. That's really good IP they made there. But anyway, sorry, I'm kind of waiting for my fuel turbine to build. But yeah, like, the thing is like, if this was set in a fantasy setting, it would be no less beautiful, and it would be no less interesting as a game. But obviously it would, like, all of the explanations for why the world is the way that it is, all those codex entries would have to be rewritten. Like, there is something really interesting about this sort of sense of place that's been created in this game through the writing, and it's maybe not the thing that you would necessarily reflect on a game like this, right? Like, I can't really think of a lot of people who said, is like, yeah, you know, Maxis in its golden years, you know, was really well known for the quality of its writing. But in this particular case here, I think one sort of really interesting part of Titan is just the fact that while I am definitely building something interesting that I want to call my own, right, my city, I'm building it inside of a world that I'm actually quite interested in sort of what's going on, and I'm gaining some better understandings. Even in terms of there's now two rivals, so we've got Bahar, but there's also Zoran. You know, Bahar has got a story. They've, I think their backstory is turn their back on a shipping. Actually, this is a good time to go into the codex, because I know there's an entry for this one. Bahar Koroba, faction rebels, leader of the Cobra rebels. Origin Titan, biography, brought up by the founders of the small but successful Kuroba Solutions, Bahar witnessed how Titan's corporations treated its employees. When they spoke out against it, their parents tried to have them converted. This is the process by which you generate workers. This was enough to push them towards the rebel cause. They were educated to take over the family business, and now they use that knowledge against the corporations of Titan and the council itself. So, again, you've got, it's fine to have antagonists in games. You want to have antagonists in games, but that's an interesting story. Tell me more about this person. I don't want them to win. I want to profit. But, it's certainly kind of nice to have these kinds of motivations. To me, it's just that extra. It's just that extra push to build a world that I'm quite invested in, and well, so to speak. It's just one of these things that I come to appreciate more and more as I play the game. Anyways, sorry, I know that I've been sort of babbling on a bit. So we've kind of hit our goal here of building this bigger fuel turbine. I am going to wait to dismantle the old one just so I can have a realistic idea in terms of how much fuel we're generating. But the next step is going to be to build the next step of the energy plant. We technically need one more tier 3 mineral, but once I dismantle the fuel turbine, this should be fine. So the way the fuel turbines work, so pretty much everything in this game is simulated, even the pollution. So like the fact that it's raining would actually be clearing out some of the pollution in the sky. The thing is I've got an advanced filter right beside my smokestacks, and we're not really generating that much pollution from it right now, so it isn't as big of a concern. But you will actually notice when you click on things like there's pollution levels, ethane levels. Those are going to be affected by what's in the area. So for instance, I could take this fuel turbine. I could click here beside the road. This has got 34.56. So let's try and find a comparable slot. So let's go 1, 2, 3, and 1 to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 1 to the left. Oh, but it's water, so that doesn't drat. Okay, well... All right, I can't quite... Or I guess 1 to the right would work here. So this is 37.48. So there's about a 3% difference between these two due to the presence of this fuel turbine sort of sucking the ethane out of the atmosphere. What I'm doing here is I'm actually going to dismantle this particular turbine once I get an employee inside here. But you'll notice this sort of white area here. It's basically surrounding all of the really rich zethane here. So in addition to kind of getting the doubled up bonus, I'm kind of just sort of have this constant flow of the source of fuel coming into this turbine. So overall, we're in good shape for that. But more importantly, it's going to be fueling my energy plant when the time comes. We just need the employee to. We're actually also getting close to the start of the workday, so I will turn on the work from home setup. I've got 52 minerals, so I want to be a little mindful of my factory here. Okay, so we're now generating 80 fuel. Some of that's going to get knocked down by turning off this fuel turbine. But yeah, we definitely can support another energy plant now. So this not only stores ethane, but it also stores energy and gives me sensor range. So this is like the ultimate ruin. And this absorbs pollution. Now the drawback about this is that it'll also absorb ethane. So I might actually want to convert this into minerals and isotopes. once I get my energy plant up, I think I'm going to start upgrading a few buildings. I don't quite want to do it now because I don't want to spend energy that I don't have, but we're getting close to that point. So while we're waiting for that to go up, it's maybe not a bad idea for me to talk about what's my overall plan for the business now, right? We've got our mineral set up, ready to go here. Cool. No real complaints. I guess the only thing here is that it wants. I guess we can upgrade the pylon. Probably better to do it now than later. In fact, let's upgrade that command center as well. So we're going to have a bit of a fuel problem, but better to get that out of the way now. In fact, maybe I can even get away with upgrading the energy plant. Upgrades for everyone. But now that we've kind of got a setup here ready to go as far as the mineral production is concerned, I want to do the same with isotopes. And the isotopes are going to be a little bit more important because we've already exhausted our supply. Well, actually, that's not entirely true because we can still pick some up off the ground. But we are kind of getting to the limits of the isotopes that I can sort of claim through my usual means. Forgot to check out this ruin. But what I do want to do is basically have sort of a second satellite office set up near the isotope node, and effectively it's just going to be the same thing that I've got here. It's going to be claiming, it's going to be a mine to get the isotopes. It's going to be a factory to process the resources. What I might do is I might put the mine here, like a road, the factory here. I guess I could put the maybe factory here. I don't know. I gotta kind of think a little bit about how I'm gonna do the road placement. Okay, lots of upgrades. So that's gonna cost 90. I think I can get like one of these. I think I'm just gonna cool it on the upgrades for now, with the possible exception of the fuel turbine. Yeah, so that ship, I don't have as much power as I think. We are, however, generating a truly spectacular amount of fuel, though, so I do think I can actually afford to upgrade the energy plant when the time comes. So, first things first, well, not first things first, but I am going to upgrade the work from home setup just so I can start making a little more money. My end of day balance is going to be 738, which is not spectacular. So essentially I need some more bodies. Eventually I'm going to be building things like, you know, residential offices, residences, offices, so on and so forth. But I kind of need money to be able to unlock those, and waiting a few days to be able to unlock another building's really not sort of, that's not really what I want to do. So at this point, it's just kind of a matter of increasing the rate at which I'm earning. I talked about building sort of that second satellite office so that I'll be able to exploit the isotopes. And then I tend to find that I don't grow my population as quickly as I think I should. So maybe that will be my next focus. But I really wanted to make sure that my I was getting a bit more focused on cash generation before anything else. I'm just trying to think if I want to add another body to the smokestack. I think I will, just because we do tend to be pretty bad at managing the waste. Okay. There's nothing really blocking the expansion I want to do right now. Okay, I think I'm going to start laying the groundwork for the expansion to the isotope mine. Especially because it occurred to me that probably the pylon game is going to be a little wonky. Yeah, I'm almost certainly going to need to build a command center to get enough for the manufacturing base I want to build. This is more so I can clear it out rather than any need. This is actually a little more complicated than I thought it would be. But that's fine. I can definitely make this work. I was thinking of digging up these isotopes patches, but actually one thing I can do is donate some minerals. Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for the workday to finish before I sort of level up the work from home office. Again, I kind of need to build things out before I can really like go to town on the big special buildings. But it is something I'm going to work on. So if I had my way, I would build a factory here. So I need to think about my pylon reach right now. So I definitely need a road going to the smokestack. I can build a factory here, but the catch is going to be that there's no power to the pylon that I build. If I build a pylon here, well, I guess what I could do is if I built a pylon somewhere in here, then I would be able to put down the command center, and then I'd be able to sort of route the road around, which is a little... Well, it's a little weird, but it actually might look kind of neat. So let's... We're going to do an experiment in aesthetics. And then I guess the command center would have to go here, which admittedly is maybe not the best place for it, but... And how are we? Okay, we're in leisure, so we're gonna upgrade work from home. I think I'm actually gonna upgrade the generator as well. I'm really trying not to buy another truck. But it does look like they're getting pretty consistent usage. Okay, we'll let this run. But yeah, this is kind of more fun that's going on up here. I'm sure there's slightly better ways that I could build this, but we'll be fine. One thing I can do to make my life a little bit easier for this work from home setup is to actually build an extension to my factory. So this is fine. What I normally do is I'll have two production lines going like this, and then I'll have two on the end. So the idea is that I do actually wind up using some tier 2 minerals every once in a while, particularly to build like the 5 mineral buildings, like the monetization stations and the habitat pods. But the thing is that I've already got a perfectly functional mineral module here, so I'm just going to turn this thing on. It is going to mean that there's more waste generated. But what I'll do, just sort of in anticipation, is I'm going to put down a storage container for the tier 2 minerals. I'm just trying to think. I know there's another good spot for a waste receptacle. I just don't 100% remember where. I think I'm just going to leave this the way it is right now. Okay, so this is definitely going to need at least one upgrade.
Device complete.
Trying to remember which one was the battery. This battery is a bit of a lifesaver. So if you're wondering what I'm waiting on the influence for, it's just so I can start mining this patch. I think we're in a safe enough position to be able to exploit that. I should also mention that so the last couple of runs I've been trying to wean myself off of relying too much on turrets. I'm not necessarily imposing that restriction on myself this time. I just haven't quite felt the need to build a turret yet. Turrets do tend to be a bit expensive power-wise, and they are a fixed defense. And particularly, they're a fixed defense in a situation where I may not necessarily want things crashing down on my buildings. So I've been trying to make a little bit better use of my of ships for interception. But my secret, well, not secret, but my intention here is to get myself in a comfortable enough position where I'm generating sort of gobs of minerals, isotopes, power, and the like. And basically setting it up so that I can, I can have some somewhat reliable turret coverage and not really feel the energy impact. And there's going to be a couple of things to drive that decision, one of which is going to be the corporate goal. So we've actually got our second... set of goals here. So we've got political powerhouse. So we want to complete one of 3. So we want either 24 council obelisks, 80 artifacts, 4,000 credits, 20 activated inert ruins, or 1,050 citizens. For martial mastery, we want 22 defensive turrets, 160 influence, 28 conversion centers, 9 ships, and or 90 employees. And then economic expertise we haven't unlocked yet. There's really no benefit for me doing that because let's face it, I play this game pretty slow. So it's, I don't really think I'm gonna be fulfilling either of these within 3 or 4 days. Okay, this is level 3, right? No, we've got more expansion possibilities. It takes 12 more fuel. It's very, very tempting to do this. But I think I'm going to exercise some restraint. I am going to upgrade this command. Ooh, I got to be careful that I don't. Yeah. So I am going to upgrade the energy plant, but I'm going to upgrade it after we get a... I'm going to upgrade it after we've got a little more here. Like, sorry, a little bit more energy in reserve. And that's also going to be something that keeps me from expanding the work from home setup. I'm mostly doing this just so I don't have to knock out my turbine. Well, I will eventually have to knock out the turbine, but to upgrade it. Gotta make sure I keep enough for the road. Yeah, so I'll admit, this is going to be pretty inefficient placement as far as like a factory and all of that's concerned, but we'll make it work. So you can kind of see why I'm doing this sort of upgrade at night and why I didn't immediately like upgrade the... Actually, I guess upgrading the energy plant now would... Like, we're going to have the drain no matter what, right? So I really should have done that earlier. We'll hit the priority for this now. We'll have a command center before too long. And then hopefully the energy plant. Actually, one thing that'll be nice, if we don't lose too much power, I should be able to start the upgrade on the fuel turbine as well. So it'll leave me definitely very short on isotopes, but generally for a good cause. Ooh, that's looking dangerous. Yeah, power is going to go blinking on and off for the next little bit. All right, yeah. So, I mean, good idea in principle, but I upgraded the energy plant way too slow. That's on me. I could do some things to, like, I could turn off this command center. There's a few things I could do to preserve power, but honestly, I'll let it do its thing. Maybe it'll turn off everybody's apartments because I'm just that kind of a jerk. If I turn off the transport hub, do I get... I just want to see what it takes to get this command center up and running. There we go. So I figure if I'm going to contend with brownouts, like I might as well get the advantage of some infrastructure upgrades. I think I forgot to build the rest of the batteries in here. So I think if I do something like this, yeah. I could put a bunch of conversion centers up there, I suppose, if I was so inclined. This is going to be a little awkward for a while, just while the fuel turbine gets upgraded, but in fact, while I'm at it, we can just turn everything back on and we'll let the power company just raise the rates on people and find out who really wants power that much. So this is not a model. I'm just trying to kind of think of the best way to articulate the last couple of moves. This is not the ideal way to expand the business, right? I've definitely made a few mistakes here. This is definitely an example of expanding a little too rapidly, but the overall result is a pretty good one for us, right? So I can turn everything on now, and we're still going to have a surplus greater than 100 for our energy. And essentially what this is going to... Actually, sorry, that's not entirely true. If I turn on the mines, there's going to be some power draw. But overall, we're in a really good really good spot now. So what I want to do is I want to take all of that effort that I've put in, and I want to... I now want to think about how I can turn that into sort of a big gain for me. This will pull even more pollution. That's madness. And this will relay energy. I don't think it's quite going to cover what I need. It might. I guess there's no way for me to tell. I guess if I turn this thing off. You're kidding me. So I don't even need this pylon. Cool. All right, let's claim it. Get the isotopes back. Oh. Yeah, sorry, I lied about the power, so even turning on the smokestack takes us below 100. Mind you, we don't need the shipyard on, so like we can turn that off. But yeah, basically what I've got now, so all of that effort that I put in was to try and enable sort of the next bit of progress. And right now we were talking about how the real constraint is on the money that I'm earning. So as a result, I'm going to take my tier 2 minerals and I'm going to try to turn as many of them into sort of income producing resources as I can. So the first thing I need to do is put down the relay and the energy bridge. Then I take a couple of monetization stations. Oh, I'm already out of tier 2s. That's unlucky. How are we for tier 1s? We're actually also starting to run out of tier 1s, so... but we can pick some up off the ground, so that's not actually quite a hair on fire kind of a problem yet. So basically I want to activate all of these ruins. Like, they're all good, they're all doing something desirable for me, so... Yeah, we've definitely got labor shortage. Okay, so it's a little different from how I thought I was going to be spending the time. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this. Because this is supposed to be temporary. Like, my eventual plan is to dismantle this entire building. But for now, I can... Yeah, I don't know. We'll work with it. But if I'm short on tier 2s, definitely I need to get working on that. So monetization station down here, the relay, and essentially we're going to build floor 2 a lot like for floor 1. Now, the rate at which, so the salary demands go up faster than, if you take a look at my payroll, sorry, it's here. So employee daily salary. So it's probably better that I just show it in the calculation. So if you take a look at the salary for employees, right now it's 1020 for 22 employees. So effectively we're spending 46, let's round up to 47 for each employee. So, fair enough, right? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to convert a couple new employees. And we're going to see what happens to that 47 number. Employee number 24 may surprise you in the parlance of the internet. Yeah, essentially this is just about trying to get as many bodies as I can to throw at the some of my manufacturing shortfalls. We got room for one more. That's not true, actually. I've got room for a couple more. Won't have the artifacts for it, but these are all going to get dismantled fairly quickly, so it's more temporary workers more than anything. So obviously I wanted to activate those ruins, but having a workforce that's able to make sure that all of my all my minerals are being processed in good time is certainly a higher priority right now. Also, it looks like we're actually getting at the limits of what we can do with isotopes right now. So I'm close to what I need for an isotopes patch. Yeah, I'm starting to feel the pinch a little bit on all of my resources. But I'm going to try and hold the line as long as I can. I'm really going to try and avoid turning on that mine because it does mean that I'm going to need to suck up another employee to work it. I'm not going to have enough monetization stations for everyone, but this will be a work in progress. And we are going to be over 1,000 by the end of the day, but just barely. Actually, we may go into a deficit. Oh, I'm one short. Somebody's got to get converted in the next 22 seconds. This is perfect. We're not going to make it. Oh, we're definitely not going to make it if I can't find the right building. That's fine. We'll get it on the next one. But yeah, even with the conversions that we've done right now, so I am gonna fall off the edge cash-wise. So with 26 employees, we're up to 50. So it's basically 3 credits per worker more, and you can see how that can really sort of run away with you over time. So I think my next goal here, I guess depending on, so if I can get the workers in to keep the, if I can get enough employees in to keep the workers happy with the migrations, I'll make sure we make payroll. And if we can't make payroll, I'm just gonna buy. Okay, we can. Cool. Well, it's close to the end of the workday. Actually, are they gonna be able to make enough money in an hour? I'm going to say no. So let's at least be up 1 residential building for our effort. We won't be able to convert, but that's fine. We can give it a day. I am, however, going to be able to take this isotope patch now, so it'll give us a bit of a leg up to our production. Turned off this generator, huh? So, yeah, it looks like I'm actually able to support a lot more industry than I thought. I mean, I guess at this point I might as well turn everything on again, just so I have a realistic idea of what it's going to take to maintain everything. So we can dismantle this pylon. Yeah, the funny thing is now I have a little bit of a struggle in terms of where I'm going to put the storage facility, but I'm not quite going to worry about that yet. So my ideal setup here is basically to keep my race with myself is to try and avoid turning this mine on for as long as possible. One of the ways I'm going to do that is just by taking out the remaining ruins that I can that have some mineral resources, and then eventually I'm going to have to settle for a life of disappointment and actually use the mines that I built. But there's a few more things that we can take advantage of right now. So I want to use those if I can. And again, here I want to have a nice big workforce to. Oh right, we didn't pay everyone, so. I'm a little surprised nothing's going into this input module, but... The big constraint now, actually, I don't need tier 3s at the moment. In fact, I'd argue I've got more tier 3s than I really know what to do with. So, I'm going to do something a little reckless here. I'm actually going to completely dismantle my tier 2 to tier 3 processor. And this is simply me realizing that right now what I want are tier 2 isotopes so that I can combine the buildings that I'm getting. I'm not necessarily wanting... I don't necessarily want to... I don't necessarily want to take these up to tier 3. It would be nice to upgrade certain buildings, don't get me wrong. But my priority right now is to actually combine what I have already, as opposed to, as opposed to go on a huge upgrade spree. So where I can, I'll combine these, but we're not ready for that yet. Normally here I would be trading with the Council for influence, but I actually want to hang on to my minerals for a long enough time to be able to sort of take down these resources. So 23 minerals, 25. This is good for isotopes. I might claim that. I think this 17.9 is actually the most attractive. So I'll be sure to take that one down when we have the influence. And then once I have the isotopes for it, I will put down... Well, okay. Because I'm a little constrained in terms of isotopes, what I should probably do is put down the factory first and then get the storage facilities down. So the funny thing here is that was actually a tier 2 and a tier 3 isotope, so I really just need someone to pick it up. But in fact, maybe what I'll do... Well, we already have a bunch of people moving minerals and isotopes, so I think I just need to be patient here. Yeah, I'll lay the foundations for the factory to upgrade the isotopes. I'll double up this mine. I'll try and get some sort of storage facility either down here or... actually, probably I'll just put the storage here. It's a little bit of a hike for the truck, but... Part of it's just because I want the option of being able to run a road sort of through here, and then I can run a road sort of around the edge as well. Am I on my tier 2s? Yep, those tier 2s are coming along nicely, so we can finish off our expansion on the upper floor. So this will get us some much needed cash, and then I'll just finish around the edge. The nice thing about this kind of construction is that once you get that initial ring of relays, everything else kind of falls into place. I actually have more monetization stations than habitat pods, but we'll work out the difference. I keep forgetting when I see like numbers like 105 there, I need to divide it by 5 for it to make any sense. But that's life. One other thing I could do to make life a little easier for me is I could turn off this production line. It would free up workers for sure. But in this case, I do actually still have some need. Like 375 is not a lot in terms of tier 3 minerals, so I do kind of want to keep that running. Trying to find the best use of 10 influence for claiming. That's it. So I'm not too worried about the rebel threat. We've got 2 ships that should be able to handle them. Although I do want to keep my defense in mind. Like, all of these moves that I'm making here are specifically sort of, I guess, calculated, for better lack of a better term, to get myself to a production level where I'm going to be able to just do more. And again, finances are going to be a big way that I accomplish that. So even though we've got a larger workforce, I'm still actually only earning 442 at the end of the day. And that's the whole reason why we're building the next floor on the work from home setup. There's going to be a couple of things that change as well. So for instance, like this building eventually is going to be completely demolished. So that's also going to mean the conversion capsules. At the very least, if I can convert enough employees before I dismantle it, I'm going to be able to have them working on the stuff that I need them to do. But for the time being, this is just a nice little opportunity for me to convert what I can, get a workforce like able to support more, like a few more actions. Let's try and get a habitat pod in before. Oh. And yeah, just basically slowly make progress towards. I might be able to do it in 3 minutes. But yeah, like basically it's kind of, they're going to give me a little bit of a boost, and that boost I'm going to eventually turn into proper conversion centers that'll be able to just support a much larger workforce. But again, I want to get into sort of that virtuous cycle of being able to build like better turbines, bigger energy plants, to be sort of drowning in minerals and isotopes and all of that. And I'm so, like, basically because I'm at a point now where I'm still sort of waiting to get the resources I need to be able to build my expansion. Like that's not great. Until I get to a level where I don't really need to wait for that stuff, I'm going to want to be putting more towards like expanding my workforce and just making sure that stuff happens a lot faster than it does. I'm mildly tempted to claim these, but they don't. Right now, they don't sort of accomplish things that I need. So I'm gonna sit on my hands and wait. But I do have a chance to expand a couple more buildings. Wait, do those cost isotopes? No, that's got to be upgrade that it's doing. I think that was just coincidence when... Yeah, they only cost minerals. So we've got 3 more artifacts coming out of there. So if I wanted to activate all of these, that's going to cost 7. So in reality, I actually only have 2 more artifacts to play with, which I believe is not going to cover me for my employees. So maybe I should just bite the bullet, say that these things are not going to go online for a while. I'm going to convert everything to employees. And then we can sort of deal with we can get our next batch of artifacts when we're ready for the ruin. Like, the inert ruins are cool, I like them, but they're not the most important thing for me to be working with right now. But this should hopefully earn me a little more cash. If I felt bold enough, I could try and add a 3rd level to this. But that would basically wipe out my tier 3 isotopes, and I don't really have a path for getting some more. So this is why, like, the priority of building the factory is, like, that's kind of why that's what I want to work on right now. But I do have the tier 2s that I can put in there. So good news there. I suppose I also have the ability to stick the storage facility down. Do this connection. As soon as I get the isotopes, I start wasting them. This is quite far away, but this is going to be the isotope storage. It's just so I can build the road around. Does mean that I don't have a good trash storage for the smokestack right now. That'll probably wind up somewhere along the road here. Maybe even just like a single storage building. Again, not ideal, but as long as I have a good trash storage near the buildings generating the trash, we should be able to survive it. Kind of neat to see the progress. I guess I kind of always knew in the back of my mind that you could see the artifact patch change, but like this has transformed over time. Like this is what they look like. I think this is an ultra rich. This is a rich, and I'm assuming this is close to poor. No, sparse. Look at that beautiful production. This is the time you really want the soundtrack to swell. But I'm at one of the quiet bits. So these isotopes are more or less spoken for. So we're going to just combine. But it's nice to know I have them. And I do need...
Oh, Founder. Your
we
city
meet
seems
again.
to be thriving. I'd love to help you with that.
All right. The Angry Hornet. This is your... Whoa! Do you see how fast that thing was moving? We are in trouble. This might be a chance for us to see how the fire damage works. That's going to be one for me to keep an eye on in the future. Okay, let's see what we're up against. One large laser. Okay, so I think we should be doing as much damage as we can here. Now I have two options. I can either try and hit the life support systems, of which there are two. Alternatively, I can try and go for the power. The power does seem to be in something of a vulnerable position. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to go for relays just because there's a lot of them. And if I recall correctly, I don't know if this has changed, but I remember from some of the interviews, I think it's creative director or the lead or whatever the proper term, but I believe Andy Wynn is the designer of these ships. So if we get beaten, I want you all to blame him. I was actually going to say what his name on Twitch was, but now that I've said you need to blame him, I probably shouldn't say that online. I think most of you know when I'm being silly, but just in case, I'll keep it to myself. All right, yeah. So I think I'm gonna try messing with their life support for a bit. Well, fuel tank and life support. So I think that took out the gunner, yeah. So of course I could try and work on the life support, but in this case I do want to make sure that their weapons are being damaged. Was there a second? There was. Okay. So we got a little more than we bargained for. There is sort of some sense in just doubling up the attacks on the weapon to take out the gunner, but I think at this point it doesn't matter as much. No, you can you can go back. Oh, the medical pod's already on. Oh wow, so we're not we don't have any stored energy. I guess I didn't really think that through. Yeah, so we'll do the repairs in the shipyard. I suspect there's going to be a bit of work taking this one out. Actually, there's only one more crew member left, but it's a little tricky. I do like the sort of FTL. Actually, I always kind of feel bad whenever I do these kinds of comparisons because obviously, like, games don't exist in a vacuum, clearly. But I do sometimes find that it can be a little disappointing to only talk about games.
Not too tired to put up a good fight, I see. Never mind. This only makes me more determined to beat you.
I always kind of feel like it's like, oh, okay, so I think one of the reasons for this... Oh, this is our first fire. It is quite literally a dumpster fire. I thought I had more. Clearly I don't. This is cool. I mean, I'm getting hosed, but, like, well, hopefully the smokestack will be getting hosed soon, but this is neat. So I kind of want to see if there's, like, animations for people. Are they repairing the road instead of... This is what workers do when you don't pay them. So let's see what happens. So it's sitting at 45 of 72. Oh, no, it's ticking down slowly, but... Oh! It's spread to the filter! Oh, dang! This is neat! Nobody doesn't really seem to have much of a sense of urgency about this, but yeah, fair enough. I'm going to turn off the medical pod so they can start recharging, and we'll launch the one ship. There we go. But now the road is spread. Yeah, the fire's out of control. This is actually really cool. There you go. Yeah, you do get to see a bit of fire extinguisher work. I should have gone into photo mode. This is really neat. I'm glad that you guys got to see this. I don't know if I don't know if anybody else is as excited about getting new ways in which to get inconvenienced in a game, but I actually really kind of like the rate at which it spreads. Like, it's something that you kind of you need to take pretty seriously. I think that's interesting. Okay, I just want to make sure that we've wrapped up our work. Yes, I would, in a perfect world, like to add... Well, I guess we can add a couple of waste receptacles. Big problem here is I don't really have a road to... Oh, no, we're... No, yeah, we're not connected to a road, so... It's a little hard to transport the trash, but this is ideally temporary. We'll see how temporary it really is, but... We've got our factory up and running, though, so... At this point... Let's build our favorite design. My favorite design. So this thing's basically going to be ready to go. So at this point, I think I'm going to properly dismantle the isotope line. I think I'm also going to start spiking some waste receptacles where I can. I don't want to like just have a ton of trash lying on the ground, but I also don't want to. I don't want this to become sort of like the main place where garbage gets stored. So I don't think... Well, I think I can maybe get rid of this. Nope. Nope, that was a bad call. What if I do this? Nope. Nope, those relays are going to stick there. All right. So the nice thing about this is that I've recovered a bunch of Tier 1 minerals at a time that I kind of need them. So again, just delaying the delaying the switching on, and we paid everyone. Okay, cool. So I'm ready to convert, and then we'll dismantle all those conversion capsules. I guess I don't need to switch to each one individually. So I do need to wait to get my tier 2 minerals back, but we're starting to sit on a little bit of a stockpile of minerals, which I will be adding to momentarily. So isotopes here in these ruins. I do want to prioritize the ones that give me minerals, though, because I don't have any mineral patches on the ground. Just give it a couple minutes. We should be back to... I don't want to store waste here. I actually want this to be pure mineral. I'm going to see if I can get away. Yeah, I need at least one waste. It's close, and actually I guess this is the closer one to the... I'm not 100% sure how I feel about keeping this as a waste storage. I'll have some time to think about it, though. I guess one thing I might be able to do is try rotating the shipyard, and I might be able to get a road in. That would almost work. I just don't think I would have the power, though. Yeah, I think that's the reason I didn't do that in the first place, now that I think of it. Okay, well, unlucky, but that's life. Let's get to work. Well, apparently I'm eating all my tier 2s that I'm making. Okay, so we've hit our cap for employee management. I don't actually believe that number. But yeah, we should be... I would ideally like to be making at least 1,000 a turn. So... let's make sure we're getting the right ships in. So I'm not in a particular rush to get the next tier of isotopes in yet. We'll work on it, but like it's not an overriding priority at the moment. One employee's or one citizen's gonna be a tough one to hit. Well, that's fine. So yeah, I am gonna dismantle all these conversion capsules. Right now they are taking up energy, but they're not really adding anything. And actually that means I don't need any more energy consuming buildings. I could probably afford to get rid of the storage container. In fact, I love seeing that. I probably should have timed that a little bit better so they could get all their work done before I did the trash explosion, but still satisfying. So hopefully that'll be giving me some materials to work the factory with. I'm not sure how to feel about these numbers. So it suggests we're going to be making about 800 a day, which would mean that I want more. I mean, it is with... No, that's projected with 35. So I guess that means I would need to add another floor to the work from home. If I do... Oh! Right. I'm going to have a dedicated mineral and isotope worker because I was a little premature on migrating all of my resources. There's actually going to be a bit of a drought of production for a while, I think. This is going to be a little bit of a slog, just because I'm sort of buying, or I'm using the minerals right as I make them, but. I'm just going to turn this off for now because I don't need... Like, I'm actually going to want a tier 2 isotope to combine that last storage facility. It did also occur to me that I have the artifacts to activate one of these ruins. But I'm at a spot where I may want to claim some ruins before I do that. I was thinking I'd probably try and go for some of the obsidian ruins because these are added, I think, 3 or 4 patches ago now. Anyways, these are sort of like they're a higher tier version of ruins, so you can still use them for artifacts. But you'll notice that the number of minerals is relatively small, but the construction value of them is very high. So that minerals 2, for instance, is worth 45. That mineral 3 is worth 100 construction units. So the way that I use them, right, like 100 construction units realistically is like 4 units of road. That's maybe not the most exciting thing to do, except keeping in mind that like having a good road network is going to allow you to get lots of stuff done very quickly. So don't look down your nose at the roads. But the yeah, like when you just compare it, like the reason, yes, it looks very expensive, and it is very expensive, but it's the sort of thing, especially if you're struggling with your production, it's the sort of thing that's really going to give you a kick in the pants, particularly if you need them quickly. So like if the rebels are on their way, those obsidian ruins can be very helpful in that regard. Right now, though, again, I want a tier 2. So like this is a good example. Like if I knew I had enough influence to be able to claim this obsidian ruins, I wouldn't be sort of throttling my isotope refining to get the tier 2 isotope that I need. I would just simply take the obsidian ruins and work with what I've been given. But because I kind of want to combine this as quickly as I can, which is now, I've turned off the factory. But of course, now that I've got what I wanted, can turn this all back on. So I'm going to be taking a few people out of the workforce. Well, they're in the workforce, but they're not doing the usual thing I want them to do. But essentially, I've restored what I had in place in Move Fast, Break Titan. Almost. Now, let's think about the runway that I've got for raw materials. Generally, I don't like taking away red artifacts when I can, so we've got 10, 20, another 20, so that's 50. So 50 for minerals, and then 70 if I include isotopes as well. Like, obviously this I don't want to bend over backwards to spend 10 influence to get one isotope. I'm going to use it, but, I'm going to save up for these 20s first. Also, if there happens to be a migrant ship with exactly one person on it, but I think that's a little less likely. So, my decision to prematurely blow up this factory is... The biggest cost that I'm experiencing with this is just simply I have a lot of workers doing a lot of things right now. And those things in particular are moving goods from point A to point B. And right now, the majority of all of the effort of the past, 6 hours or so... Hey, Joshy man, sorry, I didn't notice. I wasn't looking at chat right away. You are far too kind in the compliment, but I will take the compliment. I am definitely learning to get better at doing that. But I hope you're well. So, sorry, I probably should have focused on this. So, I've got tons of resources. They're all just sitting on the floor right now. And let's face it, if they want to pick it up, it's going to be slow because they have to sort of slog over the garbage, or there's going to be a lot of cleanup that happens. Either way, I'm going to be waiting on this for a while. So, unlucky for me. I should have thought a little more carefully about this, but I made the decision, I gotta live with it, and we'll just kind of let the consequences slowly be digested through. Doing pretty well. Always good to hear your narrations. No, that's I mean, I get something out of it too. I certainly, I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't get some enjoyment out of it, but certainly the compliments are something that I value quite a bit. I don't know if this is your thing, but I should mention that because I know, as you say, you watch them when you can. On YouTube, I actually have a couple of books that I have now read aloud on stream. Most of them are on stream, so that means that my, the imperfections in the reading, so stumbling over words or mispronunciations, those don't get edited out. There is a recording of me doing Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal, which is properly edited. But of course, that's an essay. That's not book length. But if you want to hear A Christmas Carol, 1984, or Animal Farm, or A Modest Proposal, those are all available on YouTube. Yes. So you may also be interested in, to know that the 1984 reading was in prep. So I did Animal Farm in prep for a game called Not for Broadcast, and I did 1984 in prep for the Orwell game. Now, unfortunately, because of a copyright issue, I was a little distracted from the expiry on some videos, and so the first episode of the second Orwell game was lost. I do feel bad about that. If people want to see it, I will gladly do another session. But I also think it's no secret that I did not enjoy the second one as much as I enjoyed the first one. So I've left it at, if people ask for it, I will gladly do it, because I don't want to create an expectation and then not fulfill it. But I also think it's less enjoyable to watch me like play a game that I'm obviously not as enthusiastic about. Like, again, don't get me wrong, like if you liked the first game, you'll probably like the second one, but there were a couple of frustrating features about the second game that really hampered my enjoyment in a way that I sort of felt was, for lack of a better term, an unforced error. And again, like, I don't mean to backseat design. Like, anybody who makes a living making games is just doing something that I cannot fathom, right? Like, and this isn't also, like, just don't get me wrong, like, I don't mean to be completely subservient. Like, there is a customer, like I paid for Orwell. That wasn't a key. Like, even if I'm given a key, like, I do not feel a need to sort of prostrate myself before the the genius of developers. Like, there will be times where people make a decision that's not for me. Actually, great example. Cultist Simulator just got an update recently. I didn't really care for the new UI. And it turns out that it wasn't tested as much, and the developers said as much, and it's going to get fixed. But, I didn't, like, go on YouTube, say, Cultist Simulator is now dead, blah. Like, that's just, this stuff happens. So yeah, like, even though I don't do the, like, it's hard, right? Because if you want to rip into something, that's usually where you get to be, like, really funny, either in speaking or in writing. But I don't know, like, generally I prefer writing that's somewhat persuasive, and just seeing somebody dunk on a game or a Twitter user or something like that, like, I don't find that persuasive. It can genuinely be funny, right? Like, I'd love to pretend that bullying cannot be entertaining to watch, but, like, the thing is that, like, people wouldn't do it if it just purely brought them misery, right? Like, there can be bullies who are unfortunately very funny bullies, and, like, the stuff that they say kind of forces a laugh. It doesn't mean to endorse it, and I don't want to, like, reward someone for it, but I'm not going to deny them their talent, right? So because that's the rage well is a really easy one to go to, particularly for stuff like YouTube. I try, if I'm going to be critical of something, I try to keep it to how I'm feeling and why I'm feeling it, and generally to try and not go for the cheap laugh or the, like, I mean, sometimes you want to be silly, right? Like, so sometimes if I feel like it's a minor dig or something like that, I'm okay saying something like that. Like, I don't want to pretend like I'm a monk or something like that. But when it came to Ignorance is Strength, I thought there were some interesting ideas in it that didn't quite land. Like, I wanted them to, but it kind of went in a direction that I don't think served what appealed to me about the old game that much. And so as a consequence, because that episode was lost, I was left with the decision to basically say, okay, I screwed up. Here's why this episode didn't get uploaded. If you would like to see it, let me know, and I will do a special recording. And obviously I'll keep my hang-ups at the door. People don't need to hear me be mad. But if it turns out that, you know, it's just not that big of a priority for people that they were happy enough to see the first game and hear the book being read. You know, obviously I can take that time and record more Titan, or, you know, stream another game, or anything like that. You own Orwell but haven't played it. You think you've read Animal Farm twice. You know you read 1984 at least 4 times, but you think more. Yeah, it's a great book. I don't know if you'll... I mean, if you've read it 4 times, you probably read it more than I have. So the discussion at the end of the 3rd video probably won't mean as much to you. Not to say you don't like discussing books, but I probably don't have anything to say about it that you haven't already thought yourself, or you know, have already taken from the book. But I'm not gonna lie, like, there are occasionally moments, there's a few things on stream that genuinely make me quite happy. There can definitely be things that are unpleasant about streaming, and there are some things that I wish were different. And you know, you take the good with the bad, just like everything. But the things that tend to consistently give me some enjoyment are people getting in touch with a game that they wind up really liking because of the stream. That does still occasionally happen, and I love it when people mention that. And the extension to that for books is that there were some people who'd never heard of George Orwell, but there were some people who had not been exposed to Animal Farm before that heard Animal Farm for the first time, and I am very happy about that. And then there's some people saying, you know, I've always wanted to read 1984, but now that you're reading it, like, this is a chance for me to experience it. That's nice too. But particularly people not being aware of something and discovering it through the stream is something that, for me, like, that is definitely one of the things that makes me quite happy. Firaxis is fantastic. You know, I don't know if you've read, I don't know if this is your thing, but Sid Meier has a memoir called Sid Meier's Memoir. I quite enjoyed reading it. And obviously Firaxis is more than Sid Meier, but I have tremendously enjoyed a lot of what they've offered. And actually, if you look, particularly because you like XCOM 2, what's neat, I don't just read credits for games to be a nice guy. Although that is a good reason to read credits for games. Yeah, we're making some decent cash now. It's almost 2K a turn. So I think I'm ready for some mild expansion. Actually, I'm going to do this with the minerals first. But if you look at the credits for Sid Meier's Railroads, which I think was Firaxis's version of Railroad Tycoon, or the reimagining, rather, of Railroad Tycoon, you will notice that there's a programmer credit for a man named Jake Solomon, which, if you are a big XCOM fan, you will know that that particular programmer went on to be the lead on XCOM and XCOM 2. I think War of the Chosen as well. I know Ananda Gupta was attached to Enemy Within, but still, that's a good resume. I don't know what else Jake Solomon did at Firaxis on the way to XCOM, but that was definitely... Oh, did I mess up? I did. I have to flip the relay and the storage container. I'm a goof. I always thought I had room for another waste receptacle here. Guess not. But yeah, anyways, that's just, I love finding little credits like that. Another one is, there's a fighting game from the 90s called One Must Fall 2097, and I noticed that one of I think they're listed as like a playtester, but it's the same credit as someone who, who's now working on Apex Legends. So I think that was another one I had fun discovering. And it's funny, right? Because like when you think of it, of course there's going to be a first game that someone works on. Like that, there's nothing inherently special about that. It's just kind of neat to say it's like, oh, hey, there's this. Like I definitely remember One Must Fall because I think everybody lost their mind. There was definitely a lot of nostalgia for that game when I streamed it. But I don't know if I did particularly well at it, but yeah, that was definitely a neat connection to see. So again, all this stuff is just getting shut off for now. I don't have the labor force to support it, but this is kind of what the final version of the factory looks like. Sorry, let me catch up. So you read it twice during senior year of high school, once in English class and once during drama club because you did the play. You read it again in college and at least once more since then. Okay, yeah, I never actually got... I think we did a Brave New World in my... I remember the English teacher was quite adamant on not subjecting us to like the two dystopias. One dystopia is fine, but you can't do both. Did I ever play Slay the Spire? You don't remember if you saw it here first. You lost big chunks of days. So I've talked about Slay the Spire. I don't know if I've played it on stream, though. I don't think I have. But I have played it. I've gotten to the end, but I have not. Apparently, it is possible to attack and destroy the final boss, and I've not done that. So I did actually succeed on my first run, but it's clear that there's more material in that game. So I've not had the full experience yet. Oh, I remember now. Yeah, I'm a clown. That's fine. This is all draft anyway. One holiday, either Thanksgiving or Christmas, when you were 10 or so, you watched your cousin play Railroad Simulator, and you thought that it was so boring. Now, 20+ years later, it's like, oh, Railroad Simulator, and I understand why I liked it. So I don't remember. You're not talking about Railroad Tycoon. Like, are you talking about, like, the train simulator game? The one that, like, has $2,000 of DLC? By the way, there's a reason why games like that have that kind of DLC. Like, it's not like everyone thinks that this is a thing that you should spend $2,000 on. It's basically like if you're into model trains, like you're used to spending a reasonable amount on that hobby. And I think in this case, it's kind of capturing that because not everyone's going to be interested in the same trains. Like I don't think they make those games assuming that everybody's going to buy every piece of DLC. And I suspect even if they did, I mean, to be honest, like think of like Games Workshop, right? I don't know anyone who says nice things about the pricing structure of the Games Workshop hobby. So, I suspect model trains is probably a modest cash outlay by comparison. In fairness, though, I have not played the train simulator games, if that's what you're referring to. I think I have one of them from a Humble Bundle, but I took my first train a couple years ago. That was actually one of the first times I got to meet a game developer from, like, having covered something that they did. They were in Montreal, so I got a chance to meet them and actually it was two developers. One who's working for Fall Guys now. That was the first train I ever took. Trains are shockingly cool. Like, so not only did I take a train for the first time there, but I went to a train museum. You've never actually played it, but you've watched streams of it as an adult and thought it was interesting. And older, I enjoy model trains, but you haven't actually bought any. Yeah. Never actually been on a real train either. My mom has been a couple times when she got there. So honestly, it would actually be my preferred mode of travel. But I believe, like, so the most likely place I'm going to go is Vancouver. Because really, like, even though I've been living in Ottawa for a few years, my social network is very much based in Vancouver. I was unbelievably happy to visit Vancouver. And Brace Yourself definitely had a very large part in that, because they did host me at their office. But, you know, it was also just a chance to see friends and talk with people and you know, see how they're doing. So with that in mind, like, if I wanted to take a train so if I take a flight, that's going to be a couple $100 probably. If I take a train, we're probably looking in the thousands, to be able to take that trip. So it is something I'd kind of like to do. Like, there is a side of me that would, because especially for Canada, there's so much wrapped up in this country about the railroad and its unifying force, right? Because you've got the Americans, you've got Manifest Destiny. There's and historically for Canada, the United States has always outnumbered us, and that goes all the way back to certain policies that the French had in terms of who could be a colonist here. And so there's absolutely nothing guaranteeing that Canada would have three coasts. And the railroad actually very much had a large part in that. And so it is certainly a very it's sort of a defining characteristic of the country. So, you know, I think one thing I'd personally be interested in doing is, you know, doing a cross-country railroad trip. I don't need to go to like the Northwest Territories and that. I don't need to see all of Canada, but it is something, like, when I pay down my debts and such, I would very much like to go across Canada, and to specifically go by train. You have a vacation starting next week. You planned on going at the furthest about 200 kilometers from home, so you're planning on driving. But a friend who lives back home about 400 kilometers away invited you to his house for board games and Magic the Gathering. If you go by yourself, you might take a train because a train ticket would be cheaper than driving, but not having your car. Yeah, well, I also think, so for me, like, I sort of understand the American, like, there's something very, I definitely understand there is something about, like, driving and freedom, and, like, there is something about the national character that doesn't quite connect with me personally in terms of my relationship with automobiles. I think I'm gonna do. Oh, right, we don't have our isotopes yet. Fair enough. So it's something that I can, like, appreciate, but I don't necessarily participate in, I think would maybe be the best way for me to put that. But yeah, I would encourage, like, as just an experience, like, if you get a chance to take a train, whether it's this trip or another one, I would definitely recommend to have the experience, see if it's for you, I don't know. The other thing is, for me, like, the train game. So it's a little bit like why I like Industries of Titan, right? Like, these kinds of games are business simulators, and, like, there are definitely ways of making business simulators really interesting. Titan being a perfect example of this. You know, And I mean, especially if you go to the history of railroads and stuff like that, it's really compelling stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Like for me, gaming wise, like I think there's just something interesting in that topic because again, like the railroad winds up being like, I don't know. I just think it's something that there's a set of people who are interested in that, and it's not just old timers. Like I do think like kids. I think kids still think like trains are really interesting. Like I don't know, Thomas the Tank Engine. I don't know if they're making like more episodes of it or something like that, but you know, like that seemed to still be a thing. Like the last time I encountered a wee one, but yeah, like I don't know. To me, like the train thing for gaming has definitely been that it's one of the few. Like I just think business sims are a lot more interesting than they sometimes get credit for being. And as a consequence, that's kind of what originally attracted me to Sid Meier's Railroads. And I guess now Railway Empire. I haven't spent as much time with that, but that so far seems to... It's got a couple things that kind of irk me a little bit, but it's not like a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's the freedom thing, as you mentioned. Your grandmother and uncle still live there as well, but even if it's only 2 days, you don't know how you'd feel about being dependent on your uncle or a friend to pick you up and drop you off and the like. Other than short distances, you don't remember ever being in a car that wasn't being driven by you or your dad. I think the furthest you rode as a passenger when your dad wasn't the driver was about 50 kilometers, and that was very stressful. Yeah, and like... So there's a couple of things for me that change that perspective. So first of all, I had a lot of... trips with my family to Vancouver. My mom had cancer, so to get the treatment, we had to go to Vancouver, and we would drive to Vancouver. Well, my dad would drive to Vancouver. And so I am very accustomed to spending long times in a car. And, like, not necessarily under the most cheerful of circumstances. I don't, like, obviously I don't want to make a big deal about that, but, like, clearly that's if you're going to be in a car, like that's one of the reasons you don't want to be in a car, I guess, is the nice way of putting that. So, and then the other thing is that like the reason why I talked specifically about the Americanness of it is not me like being a snobby Canadian, but from conversations with friends in the States, I get the impression that there is quite a bit less investment in like public transportation. And it makes sense, right? You only have so many tax dollars. And if you are in a country where most people kind of think that like driving is the most important thing, or like it's a very central thing to them, that is not a justification for having no public transport. Obviously, there are going to be people who need to take advantage of buses and such, but obviously the service levels are not going to be the same as, Vancouver, which I spent quite a bit of time, which does have, like, it has a monorail, it has a bus service. My friends are fairly remote, so there was a little bit of trouble kind of going to and from the place I was staying. But I mean, first of all, huge thank you to my friends who did put me up, because let's face it, like that was during a pandemic, and their parents kind of are in their basement. I was pretty clear. Like I think the message that I sent to them when I knew I was going to Vancouver, I basically kind of said is like, I'm messaging you because you offered, and I would feel kind of rude not to at least acknowledge the offer. But I'm coming to Vancouver. I absolutely can find a place for myself, but I wanted to just double check with you that I should be getting a place for myself and not staying with you, right? And they did. They put me up. It was great. They've got a beautiful place. And it's obviously fantastic to see them. But but yeah, like, I'm willing to put up with maybe a little bit of transport difficulty. If somebody's given me a place on its own. Take that back. When your dad had cancer, the hospital he was in... I'm sorry to hear that, by the way. He was in was 80 kilometers away. Occasionally your mom would drive. It wasn't so bad since she usually took the back roads, refuses to get on the highway. Since your dad passed away, you've never been on the highway and have not been behind the wheel. Don't get me wrong, you'd love America to have more public transportation, but usually whenever you drove from Central Florida, where I live now, to South Florida, where you grew up, if you drove with your mom, the gas price was about the same as a 2 round-trip train ticket, so might as well have the freedom of having a car. Solo, it's kind of... Yeah, I mean, there's just so many factors into it. And again, like, please don't take any kind of... I'm certainly not making any, like, normative claim on it. It's just sort of what my outside perspective is on this sort of stuff. As a... just as a human, like, I would certainly like to see more robust public transfer. At least the infrastructure for it. But like, there's practicalities, right? Like, again, people are going to vote for the policies and the politicians that are aligned with their interests. And obviously, because there is so much benefit gained from driving, or at the very least, people don't necessarily like the trade-off in terms of driving on your own or having like a public place to work with it. It hasn't hit that level where people are quite at the point where they want to fully support it through public transport. It's a shame, right? It does kind of become a little bit of a self-reinforcing problem. You don't have the infrastructure, so you don't take the bus, but you're probably not going to get the buses if if there isn't a perceived need for it. But, all that aside, I mean, the other thing too, right, there is technological progress that's going to drive that as well. Like, at some point, either because it's cost effective or because, the cost of fuel is going to be higher, certainly this stuff doesn't become destiny. Like, I can see plenty of scenarios in which people shift their consumption to other forms of transport. Rouge Light Girl, how you doing? I was actually planning on wrapping up a little bit, but I guess because you all had to hear monologues on infrastructure, I can do a little more Titan. Let's start by storing some fuel. I was originally going to try and take some of these obsidian ruins, but for starters, let's actually grab the artifacts. That's a tasty one. Ooh, that's a tasty one too. This is... Oh no, 3? Yeah, for 10, that's a good one. So I'm not really in a position to generate more employees. But I am in a situation where I can buy up the buildings that I'll be needing for these future steps. So there's one more building, the science lab. I do actually want to work on the science lab as well. I'm going to need to find a way to put that in. But what I wanted to do was just make sure that I got the foundations for some of my next upgrades taken care of. Yeah. Well, I mean, in fairness, Josh, I actually don't like the bus system here in Ottawa. I've actually not had a lot of very good experiences with it, but I walk everywhere. Like, since I've got like a smartwatch, it's been quite cold lately, so I haven't been walking as much, but barring the temperature, let's say, it's not uncommon for me to walk between like 8 to 12 kilometers a day. And that's not me kind of going out of the way saying it's like, I'm going to be Mr. Health Conscious. Like, I I try to take care of myself. Like, I like going for walks, and I've started to do like the Apple Fitness Plus things, but I secretly think those really charismatic trainers are secretly trying to kill me. But yeah, like I like I my preference for walking is very much something of an indictment of our public transit system rather than like a health conscious or an environmental decision. Although with that in mind, right, like I would prefer where I can to minimize my consumption of high carbon activities. But I mean, again, I play games that keep my computer on, like, there are things I'm sure I could be doing that would be a little bit more energy friendly. Taking a break from boring lecture recording. So are these lectures that you're delivering, Rouge Light Girl, or things that you're studying? Yeah, I also suspect probably, like, I don't know how cold it gets in Florida, but like I've definitely had like a couple of like -20, -30 like work mornings, and I'm like, oh, I really regret walking in this. Like that's no joke. It's short enough, and I walk fast enough that it's not like there are definitely a couple of times where I could feel it in my fingers, and I'm like, this is a level of cold that I probably shouldn't be exposing myself to. Like there were a couple of times where I was like, this is a really dumb choice, but for the most part, I got through it. You do distance learning, and you have to watch slideshows with voiceovers for lectures, and it's boring. I'm sorry to hear that. So, do you mind if I ask? I can't recall if you've mentioned before, but do you mind if I ask what you're studying? I'm also trying to decide. I'd probably like to grab these isotope patches before I take the node, but I obviously went kind of nuts on the artifacts. I'm going to have to pay that back. So, if I donate the minerals, then I wipe out my mineral reserves, and I have to turn on the mine too. No, we've got enough sitting on the ground. Like, we can support it. Oh, this is actually, here you get to see a great example of how this is working, right? So, again, the entire sinkhole is covered by my fuel turbine. I think when we upgrade it one more time, it's going to move out to the command center, so it's just getting like whatever was starting to escape. But like this is a great spot to be with fuel, and it looks like as we expand lower, there's going to be more opportunities for me to use this crevice. So -20 Celsius. Yeah, I usually I used to call it Roguelite Girl a lot too. Yeah, man, Ottawa is this winter, I believe we were colder than Moscow a couple of times. So like Ottawa is a very cold capital. Health sciences majoring in psych. So that's really cool. So first of all, congratulations. I did not do remote learning, but I have nothing but the fondest memories of school. In fact, that was one of the people that I met back in Vancouver. One of my former lecturers, lecturer in classics. He went to Oxford and is about as smart as you would imagine a guy who went to Oxford, like an Oxford classicist is. He was an absolute rock star student in Canada, and like he's definitely a very memorable teacher. I obviously was not a classicist, but I'm incredibly glad that I took his class. But yeah, the remote learning is definitely got to be. I don't know how I would have handled that, but I wish you all the best, Rouge. Like I'm actually really glad to hear that you're doing that. You occasionally work in frozen foods at work, and that's how cold the freezer gets. Yeah, it's I've had a couple of times where so little things like, the first time I was exposed to it, like just very practical things like learning of the existence of like long underwear, like understanding the importance of layering. Like when I was in Vancouver, I worked in film, so I definitely had some like long cold nights, particularly rainy nights. And so I've had to keep warm, or I've been in like uncomfortably cold or otherwise like just generally unpleasant situations as far as doing that kind of work is concerned. But yeah, like just living in an area where it's super cold is it's just, that's different, right? It's not like you have to be out at work and you've kind of prepared. It's just like, oh no, I wanted to go out and get some groceries, and it's like this week, the last couple of weekends, it's usually been about -11 in the afternoon. So that's just like one of those cases where I'm like, I wanted to go for a walk, wanted to go for the library, wanted to, get a book, or so I wanted to get groceries or whatever. And no, I'm not doing that right now because that is ridiculous. So, -11 is not like I'm never going outdoors if I can avoid it, but like the sort of recreational stuff that I'll do is like that's kind of my I kind of second guess that choice. Yeah, I'm also super skinny, so I do walk quite quickly, but I noticed that I think that just cancels out my my frame. It's hard to focus on with all the distractions in your home, but you do like that if you can watch the lectures whenever you want. Sans pants, yeah. So one of the things we did in the computer science, so my major was econ and only econ, but I did do computer science. And I was actually invited to be a TA for like the basic programming, the intermediate programming, and then like the theory one. So like it wasn't properly data structures and algorithms, but for those of you that have had to take a data structures and algorithms course, it's like the proofs kind of course that you do before that. I quite liked that course actually, but I kind of figured that like data structures and algorithms is like the econometrics of the comp sci degree. Like nobody's happy after those midterms, except for like that one guy who like goes on to be like the person who always writes compilers, and like that's But so we were definitely trying to figure out how to do the online learning thing for comp sci, and the model that we worked on was that there were practical labs, which was the majority of what I did as a TA. So I've got my batteries up now, so I'm just going to turn on the pod. So we do labs, it'd kind of be supervised work, and by the end, because I did a few years of that, oh man, this looks really good. Like, just look at those shadows. This is, we've got fog going on. Sorry, I realized that the building is kind of, like, stalled out a little bit. It's just because I'm... Like, it's not just because I want to, like, catch up with everybody. That's nice. I can still play the game while I do that. But, like, I'm really impressed by just all the little details. Like, obviously the sun is moving and changing as well, so... and it's not even the first time I've seen this sort of stuff. I just, it's a nice little reminder. As the smartest reviewer I follow, Chalk is always that one guy to me. Yeah, I don't think I'm the sort of person who could who could like just like do his first compiler in the comp sci class and like decide that's what he's going to be. I might be like that for database. I'm weirdly attracted to databases, but not. Yeah, I'm not quite. I don't think I'm quite at the point where I'd become a compiler maven. Okay, I think I gotta either turn on the mine or I need someone to work the isotopes patch. So I'm actually gonna have it both ways. I'll turn on the mine temporarily. we'll let the we'll let the influence build up, and then we'll turn it off to. I mean, it'll give me like it'll give me a baseline of isotopes. I probably should have did that before, but you want to call me Dr. Cha. And I would have loved to do a PhD in economics. I did not realize that the types of programs I would have been applying to are actually ones that sort of effectively pay you. I thought that it was going to be a continuation of my master's, which essentially I just didn't have the money for. It's actually why I took the job that I did as well, and why I'm somewhat unhappy with it. It's quite literally I ran out of cash. Now, I mean, obviously I didn't apply, so it's also possible I wouldn't be accepted by a PhD program, but it is genuinely something I would have liked to do. It's kind of hard to justify as a decision now, because as much as I'd enjoy to do it, like, it's kind of hard to see like more grad school as a consumption choice, right? There are other things, like if I wanted to do like quote unquote grown up things with my money, like, I don't know, speculating in the stock market is maybe something that wouldn't take up the time from my ability to earn. I'd still lose money from it, but like at least it's not as time consuming. But I do actually still buy textbooks every fall. Well, actually every summer. That's when they go on sale. But I don't know if I'd like to. I just don't quite see the path that would take me towards that personally. But anyways, yeah, sorry, I was talking about remote learning. But yeah, so we were shifting, like while I was TAing, we went from something that was like lectures and tutorials, and the tutorials were where you do applied stuff, to shifting it so that the lectures were recorded. And one great thing about that was that people could listen to them at their own pace. So like if they were not clear on something that the instructor had said, they could like pause and rewind, and they could watch at their own pace. And having been like, I will tell you, having been, not just comp sci, but an econ, and I was an RA in classics, so I didn't have to deal with students in that case, but like, the instructor knows when you're not getting the material, but they're not clear on exactly what wasn't working. So, like, the person who raises their hand to ask the question is worth their weight in gold. I loved that student every time they asked the question that was in everyone's head. Because in a lecture, you have to go at one pace. But like for a video, if somebody's unclear on something, you don't feel like you don't have that social pressure that you're dragging down the whole class by asking your question. You don't have to worry about feeling foolish in front of other people. And obviously you should never feel bad about asking a question. Well, okay, sorry. There was one time I did actually see a prof get very annoyed with a student for asking a question, but it was because it was one of those, I'm trying to make it sound like I'm engaged in the class questions. But worst of all, it was a very, very basic question that someone in a graduate program at like the kind of university. Sorry, this is going to sound like I was at a good university for econ. So at that kind of an institution with that kind of an economist, like somebody who's doing serious work. I believe they were an editor of a journal at that time. Like, they were really wasting time. That is quite literally the only time I have seen an instructor get angry about a question being asked. And it was, I don't think about the question. I think it was more about the sort of what was revealed by the asking of it. So I actually really do not like Tim Hortons, Joshy, man. I'm sorry to say. I think Tim Hortons is blight on the Canadian landscape. But yeah, I don't know. I think the one nice thing about online... So there's definite drawbacks to the online learning. But the one thing I do like is that the ability to pause a lecture and make sure you understand the material is good. I personally think it's better when it's when it's a hybrid approach and you have something like that tutorial you can go to, or like somebody that you can engage with. I think there's a lot of value in being able to, just like sit down and sort of take the measure of someone and really make sure that they're getting it. And that's as someone who's teaching the material, not just as somebody who's receiving the material. Because obviously I've been on both sides of that desk. But it's it can be a decent way of making sure that you get the material. But as you say, like, life is full of distractions, and certainly for home, like, honestly, even work from home for me, like, I've been pretty good about not like playing games on work time and stuff like that. But even just little things like, internet connections not working properly, or the fact that I'm working with a laptop and I don't have like my computer monitors and things like that. Like, all of those do have a cost, and they do tend to make me less productive than what I could be. Oh, poutine's wonderful. Also, sorry, Joshua, man, I did see your comment on Micro. I don't know how I feel about that person. Like, I genuinely would have liked to do a PhD, and just because, like, it is something I would like to sort of push the frontiers of knowledge on. But the thing is that it's just a question of making sure that when I have an opportunity to analyze data, and some people have given me some opportunities, like, so I've got a couple of Steam data sets that I'm still working with, and I'm learning a lot about time series doing that, which I like. I wish I was working faster on it, but like, it's, I've delivered some preliminary stuff, and I've seen what works, and I've seen some stuff that doesn't work, and I'm learning a little bit better about like what real world applications are as opposed to just purely theory. So to me, part of this is just keeping honest to myself and making sure that I'm willing to put in the work. So far, every class you've taken has very different approaches to how you're supposed to absorb information, and all of them use forums for class discussion. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about for. Like, we used a tool called Piazza, which it was all right. It wasn't like my favorite use personally, but I think everybody's kind of got their own style. You took a business admin job online where you met only IRL once a month, and you got known for starting so many arguments by playing the devil's advocate. You have some auditory processing issues, so the lectures having closed captions helps. If they have, oh man, that is not good. They should definitely have closed captioning for all. That is that's one of the reasons it took us a while to get those online lectures out, is to make sure that everyone could experience them. Because if you're not, then who exactly are you serving by like not putting if the lectures are really important, so you want to take the time and like put the effort into getting that thing right. I don't know though. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different reasons to do it, and like the thing is that there is this thing where it used to, like, I remember, so I didn't have any kind of credential when I got out of film. And like, I was looking at like budget rent-a-car, and they wanted a bachelor's for that. And I'm like, really? To like sell someone collision insurance? I need to spend 4 years. I need to have read The Republic. I need to be able to explain, the difference between, a command economy or mixed economy or whatever. Like, I will have had to be able to, analyze the poems of Sylvia Plath. This is all of this is going to be helping me with that budget job. And I definitely know why I did the master. I know why I do a PhD for econ, but that is very much specifically my relationship to econ. And I know, and knowing what I can do in that, and knowing specifically the things that PhDs do that are related to my very specific and narrow interests in econ. Like, the stuff I'm interested in econ is not the sort of stuff that you have conversations with people about. Like, normally people want to talk about, so I actually know quite a bit about inflation, specifically measuring inflation, like the construction of CPIs and things like that. There's a whole literature about that, which in my opinion is very interesting, but I'm sure most people will find very tedious. There is So like, the economy affects people, and it's completely reasonable for people to have opinions about that. But like, I remember when I was starting, one of my friends asked me, is like, are you freshwater or saltwater economist? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then I looked, and apparently this is a thing that Paul Krugman talks a whole lot. Like, I've never heard a professional economist refer to themselves as saltwater or freshwater economist. They don't have very strong opinions about, John Maynard Keynes or Milton Friedman. If you care about the politics, most of them did not seem overtly political, but by and large, most of them seemed to be fairly progressive. There were a couple who were actually quite open about the fact that they wanted to get into econ because it was related to helping people, and they were very, very clear that they had some pretty progressive preferences. But that doesn't mean that they're going to, like, reverse empirical findings, right? If they find something that's inconvenient for their politics, they're not going to, like, suppress the result. But the thing is again, like, coming back to this game, right? Like, deciding how we sort of sort out how we satisfy the wants and needs of our population. There's lots of different ways that we can do that. Experts can kind of point you to what the outcomes of certain decisions are going to be, but the actual value judgments are not necessarily something that you use the experts for. The value judgments are actually something that people do. So you listen to an expert to say, if you do this, you're going to, so like somebody's, it's like, well, I really like socialism. It's like, okay, so if you're talking about nationalizing the industries, then you can expect X, Y, and Z to happen. And it's like, oh, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about expanding social safety, like more money for healthcare and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, in that case, this is what it'll cost you. And, in order to pay for that, you would need to do X, Y, or Z. It's like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. I just want to put out a lot of debt. It's like, well, if you do that, then you're going to see the interest rates go, like there's a whole bunch of, boring conversations to say, if you do X, you're going to see Y happen. But in the end, right, it's up to the people to decide, okay, and this, you could say this with COVID too, right? Like, do we want a zero COVID policy? Like, would we want to completely shut everything down and, like, nobody ever leave anywhere for, like, months on an end to make sure that it's completely eradicated? Generally we consider that to be a cost too high to bear. I bring this up because my own province has announced that it's going to completely remove any masking mandates by the end of April, I believe. Now, there is a variant which is more infectious than Omicron going around right now. But the decision has been that our hospital network has the capacity to be able to handle any cases that do emerge from the removal. So they've accepted that, yes, there is going to be a certain amount of infection that occurs, but it's not going to be one that cripples the hospitals. Now, again, is that the right call? That's not for me to say. What we would hope is that we have an accurate reading as to what the consequences of that policy decision is going to be. And that if it's not in line with what we want to see happen as a society, I'm going to turn down the mine just so I can preserve the resources. This is because I'm going to have a second isotopes patch. It's possible that there will be different groups that are more risk tolerant than others. And again, like, it's a tricky one because people have strong views on this which may not necessarily be well informed. But on the other hand, I do also think there's a lot of experts that kind of like to go moonlighting in either topics on which they don't have expertise, or in some of those value places where it is actually more legitimate for people to sort of have equal footing to the experts, right? So, somebody says, like, well, if I raise prices on this thing, what's going to happen? I'd say in most cases, you're going to see people buy less of it. There are obviously examples of goods which, in fact, consumption increases if you raise the price. But by and large, if you raise the price on things, either by adding a tax on it or whatever, people are going to buy less of it. And if someone says, well, that's bad, I'm like, I may have a different opinion, but I can't turn around and say, well, because, I read Richard Lipsey's textbook and, I am allowed to say that that's not bad and you have to listen to me. No, right? The value part is something that you kind of need to decide for yourself. And I mean, we do that every 4 years in the form of an election. Oh, thank you, Rouge Light Girl. I did not know that. Thank you for existing. You started typing out a long, rambling reply, but realized that Twitch chat isn't the best place for it. But then realized you had an adult beverage in your drink, so you're not being rational anymore. But thank you for making... Yeah, no worries. I mean, I'm not even, like... Twitch is a fountain of extemporaneous remarks, right? There is no shortage of, like, dumb stuff that I've said that probably on reflection I should have thought, differently about. And that'll be immortalized in videos for all eternity, or at least as long as YouTube's online. And it's a little bit like I still in the shower sometimes, like, I'll remember an embarrassing moment where I don't know, it's like, the waiter came and they served dinner and said, enjoy. And I said, you too. And then, in the middle of the shower, I just scream, why did I do that? They weren't eating. Why did I say you too? There's like constant amounts of that. The best is though, like the best I can do though, is to try and answer as honestly as I can on a topic. There is value in saying I don't know if you don't know. I know it doesn't always make for an exciting stream, but there is definitely some value in trying to think carefully about a topic when it comes up. Yeah, I mean, also just because I'm in sort of my building phase for the game. It gave me a chance to... I sort of knew I was going to be wrapping up. You guys kind of came in right around the time I was going to finish the stream, but I figured if I was going to do some extra time, I didn't want to commit myself to any like hard decisions in Industries of Titan, but it was a chance to at least kind of catch up with all of you. And particularly, like, I got to learn some really wonderful stuff about what you're up to, either going to school or talking about some of your school experience. And just in general... being nice people. I do think I need to wrap it up though, because I've actually been having a little trouble with sleep. And if I go to bed now, I should be able to get a proper 8 hours in and try and make the most of the day tomorrow. I also had a bit of a nasty exchange with, not even a nasty exchange, but something that left me feeling not very good when talking with someone. So I, at the very least, would like to take a chance to send a message and just say, hey, I realize things are probably going to be a little tense, but, just want to let you know. Oh, Delves, I'm sorry, I'm wrapping up. I did also want to kind of make sure, that I got that done before I went to bed. But... thank you everybody for hanging out. Let me take a second and I'm really sorry, Delves. I already pulled about another 50 minutes out of the stream. I will do my best to I'll do my best to satisfy the people's needs next week. So next week I suspect. Oh, yeah, there's probably going to be a Phantom Brigade update. Okay. I really want to make sure that I finish this playthrough before the new patch comes out. So, with a new Phantom Brigade, there's probably not only going to be the local game dev meetup, unless that was tonight and I forgot about it. I'm going to need to juggle around my time. I guess that gives me even more reason to try and wrap up the Darkest Dungeon, but I'm going to do my absolute best to make sure that this run gets finished on Industries of Titan. Although, again, I do want to make sure that I also give some time to Phantom Brigade, because Brace Yourself was kind enough to give me a key for both games, and I want to make sure that I am treating both keys with respect. Just like I will treat Titan with respect. I like Ciaro's delivery of that line. Um, but yeah, thank you everybody. I really appreciate you hanging out. And I like, there's a reason I spent the extra time. I know some of you on YouTube. Well, I mean, probably at this point for YouTube, people will have checked out, but um, especially when some of you prefer to see the game being played rather than having the conversation. Like, the thing is, like, the reason why I did spend the extra time was to be able to spend the extra time with all of you. So I thank you for that. I hope you're doing well. Okay, I see a name. I see a name in here with a certain title attached to them. Congratulations, dude. I was actually thinking about you the other day, and I was gonna reach out. I'm sure you'll know what one of you will know what I'm talking about. But I need to. Ah, there we go. Yeah. So now I'm gonna seem like just a rank opportunist now that you've got a fancy badge on you. You've had some changes in your life. Congratulations. But I do need to wrap up. I think the first thing I should do is just see if anybody else is doing Industries of Titan tonight. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, no worries. Heck. But yeah, that's such a weird little coincidence where, like, oh, I really should reach out to Akadak. It's been a while, and like, I mean, I got a chance to meet you in Vancouver, so it was cool to like meet you in addition to like knowing you online. And then I was like, yeah, I should say hi. Like, it's been a while, but I should just say yes. I was thinking the other day, and but anyways, I'm gonna shut up. I noticed Intelligame is online, and he is playing Elden Ring. So Intelligame is someone I actually found through Victoria Tran, also known as the V Tran. And in fact, when I was talking about streamers who are, potentially not as well known, but could be very good ambassadors for particular games, I was actually specifically thinking of Intelligame because I know KitFox has used him on their Twitch channel, on their Steam channel a couple of times. And, that was, I mean, again, like, I can always talk my own book, right? But I thought he was a fairly good example of what I was talking about that. So, but yeah, actually, I don't. Oh, Dells, thank you very much. I also don't know if you know Akadak, but that bar we went to, EXP, that closed, but the owner is actually on Twitch. He's working for Respawn now. So Brian on the Rocks. Actually, I can give him a shout out. Delves, again, thank you so much for that sub. I am so sorry. So sorry. I gotta get this done. Like, there's a timer on the raid. But yeah, no, the guy who owned that bar that we went to, he's at Respawn now. So yeah, sad that the bar closed, but he's in a good place career wise. So yeah, we will catch up. Everybody, have a great time at Intelligame. He's playing Elden Ring. I will see you all Friday for Darkest Dungeon. Until next time, see ya.